KKK, no fascist USA. No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. Wanna be an American idiot? One nation controlled by the media. Information ain't Travis says. Fuck you, Donald Trump!
Hey everybody, welcome to Rage and Love. We have a special show today. I have my friend Cull over here. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you. So you and I have watched this video in the past by a fellow atheist. And I think a lot of people, when they hear the word atheist, they assume that all atheists must think the same way on every single other social issue and social justice and anything that has to relate to anything else, pretty much. How do you feel about that? What's your comment on that?
Yeah, we're not a monolith. Like the whole atheism thing answers one question, and that's like, do you believe in a god? For me, the answer now is no. Like I was raised Catholic. I'm not anymore. Everything else that I believe, everything else that like has value to me is completely separate to whether I believe in a god or not. I understand why people who believe in gods get that confused, because a lot of the time the things that they value, the things that they believe in, like their morality and everything, might come from the same place that their god does. The old book, however old it is. But yeah, like atheism literally just means I don't believe in a god.
That's true, and I think a lot of people consider atheism sort of a religion, and that may be why they have that feeling that all atheists must be all the same across the board. But we've come across all flavors of atheists, right? Like there's misogyny, there's transphobia, there's
Zionism.
Zionism, correct? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just thought of the one. And so we can clearly see that we are not all the same. And so today we're gonna prove that. I think the reason why in our space, especially online, people assume that we're all the same is because the majority of us are very outspoken about these different social justice topics, because we have friends who are part of certain minorities and stuff, right? And so we like to be allies to them. Yep. And support them and make sure that other people understand why they should be more accepting and such. So but anyway, this was going to be someone that is pretty well known and has a large platform, and that will be Planet Peterson.
I like to call him PP. So if at any point during this I say little PP or big PP or just PP, okay. Probably just PP. It's pretty much always Planet Peterson. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, just a warning: we are not talking about PPs.
You might get yeah.
Not in that sense. Yeah, that's a good warning for people to keep in mind. We'll see what it's all about, and we'll discuss it, and then we will be pausing throughout and making commentary, and we'll see where we go from here.
I have so much commentary.
Oh yeah, we've discussed it privately before.
Privately.
It's pretty disappointing, really. It's pretty disappointing to see people that because I used to follow him not super closely, but like I used to watch him and be like, oh, until that video. Actually, it's two videos, but today we're just reviewing one of them.
There is a third video too. So like the video we're looking at is like about misogyny and feminism, and like if you type misogyny on his channel, I don't think you get any videos. If you type feminism on his channel, you don't get any videos. You have to like know what you're looking for to find these videos. But he also has one on race, and that's also terrible. So if you enjoy watching this with me, maybe we'll watch that one later. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There you go.
most common thing that I hear around from women around this argument when men start to talk about like what the actual odds of being attacked by a bear and so on and so forth. The most common rebuttal I get is, it's not about the statistics. You don't get it. So is it about the statistics?
So previous.
Before we hear from the caller, what do you think?
So like I'll say two things. The first is that this caller, I don't know who it is. I think he purposefully has their like their icon covered up. Maybe they were getting hate. Who knows? Amazing job. Like this caller does so well. Like I can tell this caller knows what they're talking about. I think it is about the statistics, but not the ones he's thinking about. So he thinks that the statistics that matter are how many bear attacks are fatal, how many bear attacks there are each year. The statistics that matter are statistics specifically relating to gender-based violence. That's what the question is about. The question is about a random encounter with a man or a random encounter with a bear. And like, yeah, it's not the statistics that matter, because this is just a hypothetical. This is just supposed to gauge women's reactions. Like, if I ask a random question like what do you prefer, vanilla or chocolate ice cream? We're not talking about the statistics, right? We're just talking about your reaction to that question, and that's what this is. The question is hypothetical. And so like on the bigger scale of things, when we're talking about like how people react to man v bear, women specifically, like, yeah, you start thinking about statistics, but the women who are answering this question aren't thinking about the statistics. The women who say I take the bear or I take the man are gauging the danger that the threat that they feel is being presented in each of those situations. And
yeah,
like,
and
yeah, that's what he ignores.
Right. Yeah, and the statistics are, like you said, about what women experience at the hands of generally cis men.
Yeah.
And I clarify that because this is something that I always like to point out when people talk about trans women going into women's bathrooms, and that, you know, the typical thing is like, well, they are just trying to abuse the women and the little girls. I'm like, no, women are not scared of a person with a penis, regardless of how that person identifies or their sexual orientation. Because women are not scared of gay men. Why? Because a gay man, as far as I know, is not gonna go and sexually assault a woman, right? Because he doesn't have that desire to have a sexual encounter with a woman. And the same can be said about trans women. It doesn't matter what stage of their transition they are in. Generally speaking, they're just not interested in that. They just want to go into the bathroom and do their business.
Yeah.
So
I think there's actually an extra step to it too. I was talking to a friend about this yesterday because gender-based violence is like a thing I talk about all the time. And so we were talking and he was like, maybe I'm getting this wrong. It's sort of like all men are the problem. And like, yeah, like so when you like cis men specifically tend to be the problem. And the way I put this is the reason for that is both trans men and trans women have spent some of their life as a woman. Like, typically speaking, like they have had some experience of what it's like to be a woman or a girl in this world, and they have experienced the patriarchy from the side of the victim. They have engaged in that way, and only cis men haven't. It's only
and I
cis men haven't.
will point out that sometimes living their lives as a woman was something that was forced upon them. You know.
When you've had this discussion, you said that people are basing it off of emotion. I'm just kind of, based on some of the things that you said, I'm giving you factual arguments that are based in statistics. If you want to talk about it like from an emotional standpoint.
That's a great point, because she is saying, yeah, we have an emotional response to the statistics, and it doesn't really matter. We are only looking at one part of the statistics, and that is the gender-based violence statistics. We are not looking at how many bears attack humans. We could have picked any other animal, alligators, lions,
Hippos.
whatever you want
Hippos
to
are
pick.
monsters.
Yeah, hippos. Yeah, they will destroy you,
Mhm.
right? So we are not looking at that side of the statistics. We are saying we will literally pick being alone with anything else, any other species other than a human's smell.
Well,
Or
I want to
like-
know what your position is, because I've heard this so many times.
On
It
Man v.
was
Bear?
never about bears and statistics and how dangerous they
If
actually
you want to
are.
know my position, so you want to know my position on like the man v. bear conversation, correct?
The only thing I want to know is your take on, or like, do you agree with the sentiment that it's not about statistics?
Yes, I actually don't. I don't think that using man v. bear as an analogy is an accurate or apt description of what happens. I think it detracts from the conversation about sexual violence and makes it into a conversation that's more abstract and palatable to people that don't want to see how relevant and
it leads to people talking about the bear rather than talking about the violence.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Like this,
how
like I say, the person who's
sorry about that.
oh no, you're fine. The person speaking to him, very good. Like very like I would love to have a conversation with this person too. Like,
Yeah, I wish we could find out who they are, because they're obviously we've already watched the video before, but I think they did a pretty good job, and so far they are already doing a pretty good job at explaining like, hey, yeah, it is about the statistics, but it is also not about the statistics, and that's not what we need to focus on.
I think it's interesting that like she I assume she, I probably shouldn't, but the caller is like, they're saying that that like the statistics kind of matter in like basically what I said at the start, and he will not allow them to get their point across. Like he constantly is like, I only want a yes or no answer to the question, is it about the statistic? Like it's more nuanced than that, PP. Like there's a like, if that's the argument you want to have, then you're not listening. Like you're actively not engaging with the person who's talking to you.
Yeah, it's definitely not a yes or no question that you can answer that quickly.
unserious people take it in society. I think it just makes it easier for people to digest or to either acknowledge or not acknowledge.
Moving away from statistics makes it easier to digest and acknowledge.
The man v. bear conversation as a whole, it's like using an analogy.
Yeah, he's still not listening. She is saying that what is making it palatable is comparing it to something else, so people can get it through their brain of what we are actually trying to say, that we are so afraid that we will take anything else over that specific encounter. Personally, obviously I haven't asked every single woman that I know, but every single woman that I do know that I have asked or have had this conversation with has experienced some level of sexual assault or harassment or other way to rape at the hands of a cis man. If we're going to talk about statistics, let's start there.
I would rather just say men rape women, by and large.
By and large, men rape women?
Yes, men rape women. Women also rape men, but like it's a conversation that should just be had bluntly and blatantly.
What does
like, we don't
what
need
does
a
by
bear
and
to
large
have that
mean? Because to me that sounds like you're saying most men are rapists.
No. She is saying that the people who rape the women that have been are by and large men.
Yeah, like we can look at statistics. Like I've looked in like multiple places for statistics. He will say something later, and I'll talk on it. Like I'll touch on it then. But it is almost always a man. Like the perpetrator of these of like gender-based violence is almost always a man. Like there are male victims, there are female victims, there are more female victims than there are male victims. But regardless of which side of this you're looking at, it's men. It's men that are doing this. Like it is very rarely a woman who is doing these crimes. Like it is very much a man problem. And I put this down to the fact that we live in a patriarchy, and having had a discussion on a platform with PP here, he doesn't think that we live in a patriarchy. So this is the flaw. Yeah, this is one of the flaws, and why he can't recognize this, because to him, hearing by and large, it feels like an attack on men, and he is taking that personally. And he isn't seeing that it's just discussing these statistics that he thinks are so important.
He immediately went to the not all men.
Yeah,
you know, and we clearly know that. I don't, associate with men who are rapists. So I know a lot of men. I have a lot of men in my life, so I know that not all men.
Yeah,
totally.
But that
is not the issue.
Yeah, there's two approaches to this. I saw a video, I forget who it was, but they said the problem with framing, whenever someone responds not all men, what you're doing is talking about actual victims and removing and moving that over to people who feel victimized. You're talking about actual survivors of gender-based violence when you're saying men hurt women. And you're moving that over to, yeah, but not all men though. Some men are good men. And by saying all men, you're victimizing them. I don't care. I actively, as a man who doesn't commit gender-based violence, I don't care if I get lumped in momentarily with the massive problem, because I know that anyone who speaks to me, anyone who gets to know me, anyone who spends a reasonable amount of time with me is going to form their opinions on me, and I'm never going to attack them. I'm never going to harm them. And we've touched on this elsewhere too, AJ, when talking, which is like, some people will say things we said about like atheists earlier. Like, some people say, well, I didn't expect this kind of behavior from atheist men. You should expect certain kinds of behavior from all men, because all men are, like, not every man, but men as a percentage of the population are the problem. And the second point is because of the patriarchy, because we are told in movies, we are told in songs, we are told in stories, we are told that like men are entitled to certain things. And because of that, there is this level of thinking that like is just pervasive in our societies. Like, women were traded as commodities. Women weren't able to open bank accounts until the 70s. You can't, like, again, in this video later, they'll talk about marital rape. Peterson seems to think that this is a get out of jail free card for like the patriarchy being over. It's still like, it's illegal, but it still goes unpunished in a lot of places, including religious institutes. So like the problem with like this reframing this issue of it's not all men is just undermining the problem entirely. Like, you are not allowing the conversation to be had.
Yeah, I like what you just pointed out, because it is a religious belief. It's a religious-based idea, which we still use in modern society. For example, the concept of taking the husband's name when you get married, because way back then in biblical times, women were the property of men. And so when they got married, what happened was the ownership was transferred from the father to the husband. And so the woman had to take the name of the new owner, which was the husband. Yeah. I saw this post just a few days ago from a man that was saying, that was quoting some Bible verse. I forgot which one it was, but basically the message of it was that the woman should dress modestly because her body only belongs to her husband. And I was like, what does that even mean? Because the implication there is that she cannot wear certain things because she belongs to the husband. So does that mean that the husband has to give her permission to do anything with her body, to have a surgery? Let's say if she needs to have eye surgery and he says no, then she can't. If she wants to eat a certain type of food that he doesn't like, is she not allowed to because he doesn't allow it? And you could go with that several different paths. But yeah, that thing of women being owned by men is how the patriarchy thrives, and it is still so prevalent in today's society. So
Oh, well, what did by and large mean? Or, like, sometimes I just say things, and I'm like, I don't know why I said that, but like, was
So
there
I was
something behind that or
Speaking
not?
more rhetorically. No,
Okay, that's
speaking more rhetorically.
that's perfectly fine. I do that like all the time.
It's not about the bear. It's about the fact that women are having a conversation about.
he was kind of like, "Oh, let me just dismiss what you just said. Like, I don't
Yeah.
give a shit. So let's get it go."
And,
And
like
I,
yeah, they were like, okay, yeah, no, okay, yeah, I was just hyperbole, like, where, but it's like, no, I know what they meant, and you know what they meant. People who heard what they said can understand what they meant by the statement. By and large, within gender-based violence, the problem is men. Like
yeah, I think
above 90%, it's men.
I can tell she's frustrated and just like trying to. All right, I'm just gonna let that part go and just go back to try to get back to the topic. So
Men cause harm to them. And rather than saying men cause harm, they need to use an abstract concept like being in the forest with the bear.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, do you know who shit, what's his name? Andrew something. Do you know the YouTube channel The Crucible?
No.
Andrew Wilson. He's been on what's that stupid like dating podcast thing where they all sit around the table, the Whatever podcast, I think. He's been on there a few times. He's very much like a anti-woman person. He says like a patriarchy is necessary and stuff like that. I think he's a total pig and a complete jackass and also an idiot, right? So I agree that when it comes to violent crime, sexual violence, whatever, that men are more guilty. The differences are vastly lower than I thought they were, but men are on the worst end of that. That mostly comes from the way overlapping bell curves plot against each other on the extremes. But I don't even disagree about that. But
you look like you have a comment.
I don't know where he's getting his statistics. I have no idea where he gets his statistics that gender-based violence or sexual violence or violence in general is not mostly committed by men. He says it's far closer than he expected. Every single study I've looked at, like 90%, 85%, but like how close did he think it was that's closer than, like, he thought, like, he makes it sound like it's 60-40. He makes it sound like it's 70-30. It's not. Single digits, it's committed by non-men. Single digits of sexual violence is non-men in percentage. Like, and he says this knowing that his audience is made up of mostly young men. He references Andrew Wilson because a lot of the people who were watching him probably do know who that is because he has an overlapping audience.
But now we know where he got the statistics then.
Right. That's the problem, right? Like, yeah.
Which we know what they were going to be then. Yeah.
Yep.
The thing is,
but I also like that he starts with, well, I don't agree with him, but but I'm gonna quote him.
That will happen a few times. Yeah, he will introduce something and say, but I don't agree with that, and then continue to argue from that position as if it's his own, and like vehemently at points here. Like I'll make sure to reference it when we get there, but like for someone who doesn't believe these things, he really is fighting for that cause.
Arguments, I think, are still sexist in the same way that arguments like against immigration are racist. Like if I said to you that, look, somebody I know was harmed by an illegal or an undocumented person, whatever, so I think we should shut down the border and not let them in. Like, what do you think when you hear that?
That you're the average conservative, TBH. I don't believe it's.
I don't. Just to be clear, I was not telling you what my beliefs are. I was giving you an abstraction.
That's what I thought when I heard that. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. I'm not pro shut down the border or anything like that.
We'll see.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Well, we'll see, because he continues to argue from this position and completely, like, this is a false equivalency, first off, because like it's very, and again, having had a discussion with him on another platform at some point, he tried to bring up black on black crime as his analogy, and that's a racist dog whistle. I asked him what middle class on middle class crime rates were, and he couldn't tell me. I asked him what upper class, and we have black on black crime statistics because the criminal justice system is racist, and so like you can discuss those things, but like he's talking about illegal immigration as like crimes committed by illegal immigrants as if it's equal proportional to men committing gender-based violence, and it isn't, because illegal immigrants commit less crime than legal immigrants. They commit less crime than citizens or like naturalized people. Like, this is as far, you're talking about women in this analogy, you're talking about the minority in the analogy that you're presenting. So when someone says, I want to close the border because a friend of mine was hurt by an illegal, an undocumented person, whatever, you are actively saying, oh, gender-based violence is done by women too. That's the argument you're making. It's like being sexist against women based on gender-based violence, because when you look at the statistics, undocumented people committing crime is closer to women committing gender-based violence than men. If the majority of if the majority of gender-based violence is done by men, your analogy fails. This is not an equivalence. This is a bad thing that he's doing, and he is going to stick to this for someone who does not believe in it. This is the line of questioning he's now going to continue with. He doesn't want to engage with what the person is telling him. He just wants to stick to his analogy, and it is deafening. It is, having watched this as many times as I have, this frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah. Not to mention that the actual crime, in quotation marks, of coming into the U.S. illegally is a really minor. I think it's a civil type of crime, like a misdemeanor. It's super minor. It's nothing compared to what you to the sort of punishment that you will get for sexual assault or rape. So.
Yep. If you get punished for those things, because most of the time you don't. So,
I don't know if I would say that it could be attributed to sexism, though.
Well, no, this is, but I'm saying the arguments are sexist in the same way that arguments like this are racist. So,
okay, can you explain to me with?
Yeah, so he is basically trying to say that she is being sexist because she is saying that the majority of gender-based crimes, assaults, are committed by men. It's like,
he thinks it's sexist to choose the bear. That's what he thinks. He thinks if you choose the bear, you're a sexist. Yeah, because not all men, exactly.
Out using an analogy, perhaps.
Well, I have to, because we're comparing racist arguments and sexist arguments. There's no way not to do that. So if I just say, I mean, I can just play devil's advocate and pretend to be this person. Undocumented people commit crimes, violent crimes, and fentanyl is coming across our border, and whatever. Therefore, I think we should shut down the border.
Those are both terrible examples, by the way.
Yeah, but also nobody is saying punish all men across the board, even the innocent ones, for all crimes.
Yep.
Because some men are committing sexual crimes, gender-based crimes. It's like, Jesus, he's so dense.
And like the two things he said as well, like, I understand he's playing devil's advocate, so he's taking your typical like conservative right-wing like Fox News, like fentanyl and violence, violent crimes committed by undocumented people less than documented people, less than naturalized people, fentanyl coming across the border. Let's just play this like hypothetical out. If you want to get drugs into the US, are you going to give it to an undocumented person who is more likely to be searched upon presenting themselves at a port of entry, or a citizen who can just like show their passport and walk on through? Most drugs crossing the border are brought in by people entering the country legally. Like, this is, again, false equivalence. Like, he is just grasping for straws because he does believe that her position is sexist. He might not believe that the border should be closed, but he definitely believes that her position is sexist.
Yeah, he deeply believes that.
So what would you say in response?
That's literally not how it works. Okay. Anyways,
What are you talking about?
I want to know if you can explain to me how the argument is sexist without making an analogy or a comparison, because I said that Man v. Bear, I don't necessarily believe is accurate because it uses an analogy. So I just am having trouble with this line of like,
It's like, how do I explain myself now? Like, just do it, dude. Like, if you're gonna believe in it, then you should be able to explain it.
Yeah, and just like she is asking, or like the person is asking for an explanation of why he thinks it's sexist. Like, I don't think that's too hard of an ask. I think like that is a reasonable, like, if you are going to tell me that Man v. Bear is sexist, I'm going to need to ask you why. And like, so far the only thing he's given is that the crime statistics are closer than he thought, which again, we're talking 90 percentile here. Men are guilty of these crimes far more than women. So saying it's closer is just misleading. And like, he's doubling down now with this racism analogy. Like, it is again, like, having watched some of his other videos, like it does feel like this is him priming his audience. And having been on his Discord, his audience is misogynistic. His audience is anti-woman. The fact that, so just a quick aside, and I have screenshots that I don't think I've shared with you, so we won't show them, but like, his Discord server, himself included, refer to feminists as misandrists. They just say the word misandrist in place of the word feminist. It is just a thing that they do. If you believe in feminism, if you think feminism is a good cause, then you must be a man hater. That's how victimized him and the audience he cultivates feel about this topic. So he could just say, I think it's sexist because I think you hate men. He could say that. He could say, I think you're a misandrist. But he won't. He'll keep retreating to this bad analogy.
Yeah, I was in his Discord for a little bit, but then I was like, this is a cesspool, and for my mental health, I left.
Yeah.
It was just it's just not a positive place. It's like you said, it's really misogynistic all over the place. I did not see those comments specifically, but there were tons of other examples on there. Yeah, and not just him, but like his followers as well.
His mods, his like the people who donate. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stick to my analogy because I think it actually works very well. So, if I tell you, look, I'm just afraid.
He's like, I'm gonna do what you ask me not to do anyway.
It's not like he listens to women. Okay, like it's not like he's a man talking. Okay, so his analogy, believe him, it works. I've told you why it doesn't, but believe him, it works.
Coming across the border, and we do know that undocumented people have killed other people in our country. I'm not even saying most of them are or anything like that, but it has happened.
I'm not even saying.
So
of course it has happened. Nobody is saying that zero undocumented immigrants have, killed people. God.
Yeah, like, he's not saying that. He's not saying it, but the words did leave his mouth. But he's not saying it, but the words did leave his mouth. He did say it, but that's not what he's saying.
Think we should shut down the border. I think that is a racist argument because it assumes that any person coming across the border is a threat. Don't you agree?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, how is that analogous to...
Because if you see a man in the forest, why would you assume that he's going to kidnap or rape or whatever?
Because he's a random man in the forest?
And a random immigrant coming across our border may sell fentanyl and cause somebody to overdose.
But again, this is where statistics do matter, right?
Yep.
Because the amount of random strange men that will cross the border, like I said, with drugs, first of all, are generally not undocumented. But even so, if they were, then the ones that do are such a small percentage that No, nobody's going to think that they're randomly bringing in drugs. Like, I don't. If I run into another woman in the woods, first of all, I'm generally not going to think, oh, it's a man in a woman's dress. That will definitely not be my first thought. And the second one will not be, oh, she's going to, sexually assault me or even shoot me or any other violent crime, because statistically speaking, women do not commit the majority of violent crimes in general, shootings, stabbings, and etc. and so on.
This the again, like the problem he has, he flatly doesn't understand why it's racist to assume that immigrants are going to come over into this country and commit crime. The reason it's racist is because you can look at statistics and see that that isn't the case. Like the problem is that, like, if I would accept this analogy if he could point to like a population of people who are who represent 90% of any given crime. If he could tell me that, like, there's country Zorg, whenever a Zorgian comes in, they commit a crime, 90% of Zorgians commit crime, then I'd be like, okay, that's a good analogy. That's a one-to-one perfect analogy here. And I can understand why thinking that Zorgians are going to commit crime is similar to thinking that men are going to commit sexual violence. Like, at that point, we can have that discussion, but that's not what we have. The reason it's racist to think all immigrants are going to commit crime is because that's a racist position based on, like, just a hatred of minorities. Like...
Yeah, and I know that he is trying to make that point that is racist and that it is equivalent to the sexist argument that he's claiming it is, but it's like, no, it's not. It's not. It's apples and oranges. So yeah. It's apples and tomatoes.
Tomatoes are still a fruit. It's apples and sheep.
You're right.
See, that's the extra leap that I'm not understanding. The whole sell fentanyl and cause someone to overdose.
What?
You
know, there are like tens of thousands of fentanyl overdoses a year.
Right, but how is that analogous to the conversation about man v. bear?
Because I'm trying to show you that when you treat people like statistics, or when you I don't know, there's probably a better way to put it.
He doesn't get it.
Buying you a drink.
He can't even keep up with his own analogy.
He can't, like, this should be easy. If the analogies are actually analogous, then you should be able to say why. You should be able to point out why. It should be easy for you. Like I said, with the Zorgian example, right? Like, if you could just say, this is so similar, then it is obviously the case that, but that's not what he's doing. And that's why even he cannot make this connection. He just wants to say racism is like sexism. This thing's racist. That thing's sexist. And, like, he's taking something that is racist and applying it to something that isn't sexist.
It can be literally, it can be anything.
Added on at the end to make it more emotionally charged.
No, it can be literally anything. The person coming across the border could just go and work in a field for somebody, or they could be bringing drugs across the border. We know that happens, unfortunately.
So, interestingly enough,
and a man in the forest could be the love of your life or the worst dirtbag on the planet. But when you see a man in the forest and you just assume...
Right, but the chances that he will be the love of your life are so tiny compared to the chances that he will be your next attacker.
And, like, the one of the things too, like, that he seems to be missing here as well is, like, the woman is also alone in the woods. Like, this isn't as if every instance of a woman crossing paths with a man is met with this reaction. Like, women aren't walking around in supermarkets and they see a man and they're scared of the man. That's not what's happening here. This woman is alone in the woods and a man is there, an unknown man in a situation where she is alone and vulnerable. Like, this is the problem, that he can't grapple with the analogy because he hasn't spent enough time thinking about it to understand it. He just sees that women say they're scared of men, and that makes him insecure. That makes him feel victimized. That makes him upset. He sees that as sexist. But it's a completely different situation. It is a very unique situation here that we're talking about. A woman alone in a secluded area bumps into a man who is also alone in a secluded area. Like there's the analogy is good in that way because it does set up an inherent danger that, like, yeah, if it's a bear, it's also dangerous, but you kind of expect a bear in the forest, like that's a thing you might be prepared for in some way. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that all women are carrying bear spray around like some people carry mace, but like it's less surprising to come across a random bear than like if you had the supermarket thing I said earlier. If you bumped into a bear at the supermarket, you'd probably be pretty afraid. That would probably be quite scary. Like if you were like, oh, if you're in a supermarket, would you rather see a bear or a man? I think almost everyone would go a man. I think in that situation, everyone's going to go, well, no, I'd like to see a man in a bear in a supermarket is scary. That fills me with dread. But like the analogy is set up such that you expect bears live in woods, and this is a random man. So
yeah, but also that the chances, statistically speaking, the chances that the bear is going to attack you are pretty high. But also the chances that the bear is going to just kill you are really high, like 99%.
It might kill you and eat you. It might kill you and eat you, but you know.
But like you're already dead, probably.
You're already dead at that point. Yeah.
However, running across a man, you have 10 different scenarios that are going to be running through your mind. Is he first, like, it's going to sexually harass me? Let's start with the minor ones, right? Like just a small, sort of lower level.
I mean, we could start real low. Is he going to say you'd look prettier if you smiled? Like, is he going to do some kind of passive aggressive
like
micro? Is it going to be a microaggression that he's going to engage in? Like,
right. Yeah. There could be some type of toxic masculinity type encounter. He could increase it to like, you know, to be like more forthcoming and be like, hey, do you want to, you know, kind of like unwanted advances to actually becoming sort of physical, like in a small way, like, oh, give me a kiss, or, you know, and then we can step it all the way to raping you right there.
Yeah.
But there's extra steps because he could just kidnap you and take you and keep you somewhere as his sex slave, or torture you, or, you know, starve you, or hurt you, or whatever it might be. Like there are just so many different options there of what he could do to you to make your life miserable for however long that may last. And we have seen the stories of little girls being kidnapped and then being able to free themselves as adults, right? And so they spend years in that torture environment. The bear is not going to do that. You expect the bear to do what it's gonna do: kill you, eat you, or maybe if he, you know, attempts to kill you first and then he gets spooked by something, he will go off and, you know, you will just stay there hurt. Yeah, that's the whole entire point, that we know what the bear is going to do. We don't know what the man is going to do.
I think there's also like there's an additional thing, which is like if it's like there's the whole the brown bear versus black bear thing, right? Like depending on the bear, there are certain actions that you take. Either you make yourself big or you make yourself small. There is nothing that you can do when there's a man who wants to hurt you. Some men, like you can't make yourself small and the man will go away. You can't make yourself big and the man will be intimidated. Like these aren't things that work. Like you still have like this concept of what a bear attack is going to be and what you might be able to do to evade that. But like if you're alone in the woods and you don't have anything to protect you against a man, well, you're at the whims of this man now. Like that is
That's it. Yeah.
Assume that they are the worst person in the world. That's sexist in exactly the same way that assuming somebody coming across our border, like Donald Trump said, they're bringing us rapists, murderers, and blah, blah, blah. It's sexist in the exact same way that saying that about people coming across the border is racist.
It's like, I get the message that he's trying to give, but he's just making a shit job at putting that message out there with that specific analogy.
I'd actually go further, and I think they do touch on this. Sorry, my phone should be on silent. I think they do touch on this later, but like I don't think that this is sexist anyway, because he doesn't understand he doesn't understand systematic again, he doesn't think the patriarchy exists, right? You can't be sexist against the ruling class. Like that isn't how it works. Like if women are the oppressed people in a society, then they are that minority group. They are the ones feeling the brunt of the system that exists. And so like I would argue on a one-to-one level, you can be sexist. Like you can definitely hold like misogynistic views about men. You can definitely do that. But at a scale, like you can't be sexist against men. Like the systems are set up to work for men. And like, again, this is the thing he doesn't understand, because in the race analogy that he's giving, he's talking about a minority group. He's using immigrants, people who are the minority, and he's saying racism against this minority is the same as sexism against the controlling power in the patriarchy in which we live. And that's not how that works. Again, like this is a false equivalence, and there are multiple reasons why.
Question for you. Do you think that Black people can be racist?
Okay, she does it now.
Do you know who Jesse Lee Peterson is?
Honestly, I don't think so.
He's the guy that always calls people betas, and he's always going, amazing.
No, maybe I touched grass. I don't know. I have no idea who that is.
Okay, well, he's Black, but he's extremely racist against Black people. So yeah, Black people can be racist.
Okay, so do you think that Black people can be racist against white people?
Yeah, obviously.
Interesting. So that's kind of like, that informs me on why your take is that like women can.
I like the way she framed that. She got him on that one.
This is why this is the problem, because I've watched this so many times. Like I probably like in the back of my mind knew this point was about to come up, and I just said like this is the problem. He doesn't understand systemic issues. The whole, do you think Black people can be racist? Oh yeah, Black people can be racist against Black people. Okay, but that's not the question. Like the question was, do you think Black people can be racist against white people? And he says, yeah, of course they can. And you don't understand oppressive systems. He does not get it.
Yeah.
He just doesn't understand that there is a ruling system in this country that empowers specifically cis white men. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yep, just poison the well. Obviously, they can
poison the well.
I'm not poisoning the well. It
Yes,
just
you
has
are.
to do with like how you view systems of power, and if you think that ist or ism is like the system of power has to be in place there.
So, do you think that men are oppressors?
Do I think that men are oppressors? I've never met oppressive men, but all the books that I've ever read tell me that men are pretty oppressive. So.
Okay,
Yes.
so if a powerful woman treats a man like shit, and her arguments and her justifications for it are always that because he's a man, she's sexist and that's oppressive.
Sure.
Okay, well then women can be sexist.
On like an interpersonal level, yeah, for sure.
Okay, well we agree. And
Well, she said on an interpersonal level. She's saying like not systematically, in which it went right over his fucking head.
like I find it.
I
I don't
said
know
earlier,
if
like you said, he's dense. I think it's a good word. Like I think he is so sure about what he believes that he cannot he can't get out from under it. Like he is dense. Like she is like, I can see people hearing what she says and being as defensive as he is, but this is his job. His job is to listen to people talking. That like he is supposed to be able to have these discussions, and when he's like, oh well, okay then, we agree, like no.
you like when people say women can't be sexist or Black people can't be racist, I think what people kind of sort of mean by that, I mean, I'm not sure, I'm just guessing, but what I think people kind of mean by that is something like the balance of power, if we look at everything in the aggregate, leans in favor of men and leans in favor against Black people. I don't even disagree with that, I guess. But
how non-committal.
I guess.
I don't
Right.
even disagree, I guess.
That's like, I disagree with it, but I'm going to tell you that I don't, just to appease you. Sort of.
Mhm.
That's very different from like these individual things or whatever.
Right. So then, like, based off that argument, you would say that women or Black people can hold prejudice, but they wouldn't be racist or sexist. I would say that having prejudice isn't necessarily a healthy thing to have. It can still be based in hate.
Right.
That would be the argument that most people
But
make.
if you hate people because of the color of their skin, you are the type of prejudice you have is racism, is called racism. And it doesn't matter who you are or who the person you hate.
Yeah, but we can 100% differentiate individual prejudice, racism, sexism from, like we've talked about, systematic. Big difference. And he's still not getting it.
I mean, you just tried to explain the argumentation to me. I'm just like telling you that most people would just say that is prejudice if they hold that view of like the way that the systems of power work and operate.
I mean, I don't disagree. I'm just saying that there are different types of prejudice, and racism is one of them. So.
Sure. Okay. So your whole argumentation is that Man v. Bear is sexist. But would you still say it's illogical for women to say they would rather die than be raped?
No. I can completely understand that.
So you would concede on your previous statements?
No.
What? You literally said that you think.
That's what I feel too. I was like, what are you doing, dude? What
Yep.
are you doing?
You can point out the contradiction if you want.
Explain like I'm 5.
So I was asking.
Okay, so I know exactly where the screw up here happened. I agree. I don't disagree that. Or how do I completely bungled this. I understand the sentiment that some people have that I would rather die than go through with that. That's totally fine. However, that's not the same. Then the sexism is the leap you make where, well, over there is a man, and if I go over there, I'll be raped or killed. That's sexist in the exact same way as if I go to El Paso and I look across the Rio Grande and I see people coming across the border, I think to myself, oh, well, they're carrying guns and fentanyl and they're going to take our gerbs. It's sexist in the exact same way that that's racist.
Okay, so the previous point, you saying that.
Yeah, he's still not seeing the balance difference of like, hey, yeah, a couple people come with guns and fentanyl, but a fucking truckload of people come with the potential for being a rapist.
And I might be harsh on him here, but like the thing he said was, I'd rather die than go through with that, as if a woman being having sexual violence done to her is a thing she's going through with. Like it is a thing that is being done to her. It isn't a thing that she is experiencing alongside someone else. That she is a victim of a thing, and the way he worded it was just, I will give some grace here, and maybe he just misworded it because he was like confusing his words all over the place in that statement. But like to sort of say, I can understand people would rather die than go through with that is just kind of.
It makes it a choice.
Yeah.
Like oh, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go through with it. Yeah, not this
way. You don't think anyone really believes that they would rather die than be raped? Based off of the previous sources that you cited and what you said in that argument, do you concede that claim? Because I'm not fully understanding if you like are agreeing.
So I didn't say that nobody actually believes that. If those words came out of my mouth that way, then
you said that you don't think anyone really believes that.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said it that way. What I think is, I think many fewer people truly believe that, because I don't disagree that there are people that
many fewer people. Okay.
What does truly believe mean? Because like aren't all beliefs true to the person who believes them? Isn't that the entire point of a belief? Like, what's the difference between someone who truly believes something and someone who, what's the opposite of that? Like, because if you don't truly believe, then you don't believe. So what he's saying is there are many fewer people who truly believe that. So he's saying a lot, like he's saying some people don't believe it. He's saying, yeah, I think some people
doesn't think.
yeah, some people who say that don't believe it, is what he's saying. Like he's just confirming the point that she's making, that like he is refusing to cede that ground, even though he admitted earlier that like logically it does make sense that people would rather be killed than violated in that way. But now he's going back to, well, you know, is it a true belief or not? Like, that's not how beliefs work. As a person who is in this, like the atheist space, as a person who does this on a channel that is more successful than I think he, like, given what I've seen of him, is more successful than I think he deserves. Like, he should be able to see the faults in the way he is wording this here. What's a true belief versus just a belief? Because it sounds like a no true Scotsman. It sounds like what he's doing is some beliefs are held higher than other beliefs, and some women don't actually believe the thing they say. Because why would you listen to women? Like,
Yeah, clearly.
Feel that way because people obviously commit suicide after events like that. So, yeah, if that's how I put it, then
I'd
not
also,
the right way to
with
put
that
it.
point, with that point, that's kind of gross and disgusting too, because he's saying that I do believe some people would rather die than have sexual violence done to them, because some people who go through, like some people who experience sexual violence do kill themselves. So he's saying that because some people who have had this thing done to them do kill themselves, he can therefore conclude that some people would rather die. As if he's saying that people who don't kill themselves after having that violence done to them can't say that they would rather be dead than have that done to them. That's what that comes across to me. Like that's what it sounds like he's saying.
Yeah, I hadn't considered it that way, but I see that. I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
Again,
and
like,
I don't doubt that he thinks that way.
yeah, it's possible I'm just being uncharitable because I've watched this video 20 times and I have delved into some of the stuff he says in this, and I have seen statistics that like horrify me, like shit that I do not want to have had to look at. He's going to bring up marital rape later, but like I learned things about like marital rape that I wish I hadn't seen. I wish I hadn't seen statistics of how many children are present when that happens. I wish I hadn't seen statistics of like just all like I said earlier, like the punishments are so vastly different that you can go unpunished given certain states. Some states, if you live in the same house as your husband, then marital rape is still allowed. You have to be living in a separate house in order for it to be classified as rape. Otherwise, it just isn't. Like, I wish I didn't know that. I was happy knowing that marital rape had been made illegal. I was really happy going, no, marital rape is illegal now. And so, like, hopefully men get prosecuted for that. And just again, just like, we'll get there. His position on the marital rape argument is disgusting. Like, he is so bad and flawed. Like, I'm going to be watching your face when he starts saying stuff, because yeah.
Yeah, I believe you. If this is bad, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna be way worse. But I feel like so far up to this point, the things that he has said and then his stance were really show that he has not educated himself at all about the topic.
Yep.
Two, not listened to any woman. Yep. But also very, very highly likelihood that the reason he doesn't listen to women is because he hasn't been exposed to enough women. He may have like a mom and a sibling or something, but like
I think he's married.
Okay. Oh wow. Yikes.
He has a partner, I'm pretty sure. So.
Oof. Okay, that's sad. There's a lot of times where people don't have enough empathy about certain minorities or other groups because they haven't been exposed to that. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people come out of religion when they begin to go to higher education, university, college, etc.,
Yeah.
because they are exposed to a lot of cultures and people that they were not exposed to when they were, at home, church, and such, and a more controlled environment. It seems that planet PP here has maintained this bubble of that is more than likely comprised of a lot of men that think similarly to the way that he thinks, and so he isn't exposed enough to that to even give a shit about learning more in the first place.
Yeah, there is a comedian I really like called Daniel Sloss. He had a special called X where he talks about like gender-based violence and stuff. And I'm gonna try not to spoil it because I think every man should be made to watch that comedy special. I think it is amazing. But there are parts in it that he talks about how prevalent gender-based violence is and how many women suffer like at the hands of it. Like 1 in 3 women have had gender-based violence done to them, and if no woman in your life has told you, it's because they don't trust you enough. It's because they don't trust you enough to have that conversation. And having seen this video, like what you've seen so far, I don't know that any woman would feel comfortable having this discussion with PP here. Like from what he is saying, like he is putting up all of the walls, the not all men, like all of the things he's saying. It appears to me that there is a reason why women might choose not to tell him about the suffering that they face. Like, and this is the problem. Like the Daniel Sloss's, I meant to say earlier, the one of the things about like when you say not all men, the problem is, and these are his words, he's directly addressing other men. There are monsters among us and they look like us. And like, that's the issue I have, because what PP is doing by carrying water for these people is allowing them to hide alongside him. Like he's saying, I don't listen to women who tell me about the problem. I don't recognize how bad the problem is. And he might not be a person who commits gender-based violence, but he is a person who's allowing it to happen. Because I am like, I as a cis guy will speak out against this all the time. If someone tells me, like I said earlier, like, oh, I thought X kind of man was different, like, oh, I thought men I went to the gym with wouldn't do this kind of thing to me, or I thought men I went to church with wouldn't do this kind of thing to me. I will always say you should expect men from any background or any situation to, like, men are the problem. The systems have been set up such that men believe they're entitled to certain things and act based on that belief. And like, I don't want to shelter monsters in my ranks. And like, while PP might not be a monster, he definitely dresses like one.
I think you brought up a really good point, because women often don't feel safe around certain people, right? But that's the idea. Once we get to know someone, we can tell who are the people who are safe and who are the people that are not. And if I were to have a conversation with PP over here, I would immediately get like several red flags and be like, this is a guy that first of all, I probably wouldn't associate with anymore. But second of all, obviously would not feel safe talking to him about, probably not even calling on a show, because I can see the way that he dismisses this person, who we may assume is a woman. I believe I remember them later referring to themselves as a woman, or making a comment sort of like us women or something like that. I have done shows on the topic of toxic masculinity or feminism, mainly with men. And the reason for that is because I feel like other men listen more to other men.
Yeah.
But also, I'm careful with who I have these conversations with. And I make sure that I've had plenty of conversations with them before, and that I understand where they stand, and that it's not going to be like a shit show. Like you and I have talked about this at length. about the topics of assault and all of that. So and I know a couple of other people in the community who I feel completely safe and open to talk about this with. PP over here will definitely not be one of those.
Right. And I'm just like trying to level with you and say that there are so many more indicators that show us
Can you
that
pause
it's
here?
more than just suicide that should be your metric.
Oh, sorry. Was that?
No, yeah. So this point here, like, I don't know if you're able to, if you want to go back just 2 or 3 seconds. So she is about to talk about all of the metrics that aren't suicide, like all of the things that victims of sexual assault, I think specifically rape, she's about to talk about all of the different ways in which their lives are changed for the worse, like all of the harms that they endure after this.
Okay.
And I want, like, just to the viewers and for you, watch him and see if he is engaged with what she's saying as you listen to the words she's saying, because his response at the end of this is absolutely disgusting.
All right, let me check if I can go back slightly.
It's like 2 or 3 seconds.
People truly believe that, because I don't disagree that there are people that feel that way, because people obviously commit suicide after events like that. So yeah, if that's how I put it, then not the right way to put it.
Right. And I'm just like trying to level with you and say that there are so many more indicators that show us that it's more than just suicide that should be your metric to gauge whether someone would rather be dead than be raped, right? Like passive suicidal ideation is a thing too. Like many people engage in risk-taking behaviors, hypersexuality, unprotected sex, using drugs and alcohol to excess, giving away all of their belongings, becoming homeless, things like that do put their lives at risk without actually engaging in suicide.
I'm not really sure what that had to do with the man-bear thing or whatever. Can I ask you a slightly different question?
Like, he literally brought up the topic of suicide, and then she's like explains why that happens, and he's like, oh, fuck that.
Yeah.
But I did watch while I was listening. Actually, was listening to what she was saying, and he's like, at one point, it kind of looks like he's looking in the mirror or something,
Or
and then
chat,
I guess
or-
he's
yeah,
looking
yeah.
at he's looking at something else definitely. And like types or something.
He kind of catches himself when
around.
I think she says they give away their like belongings, and he zones in again, and it's like, wait, what does that have to do with it? Like, he only heard
Like
a
he got
part of it.
lost.
He wasn't really listening.
You saw his
Yeah.
face. He goes like his
Yeah.
eyebrows go down. Like, huh? Like, what
Yep.
are you talking about?
And so he can't gauge that, like, these are other things that women who have gone through these traumatic experiences express themselves through afterwards. Like, and
it was a perfect, reasonable, logical response to what he had just said, to the words that had just come out of his mouth. It was immediately completely related to that. It wasn't like unrelated. It may not have been about the man versus bear, but it actually was. It was, really, because it was saying, hey, listen, because women go through these things, it's why they would rather die than go through all the things that she just listed.
Yep.
And he's just like so distracted that he didn't even catch that. And yeah, that's gross.
Sure.
So I don't remember. I haven't been looking at the chat very closely because I try to.
Sorry, did you say something? Oh,
he's moving on to a new topic, and he's addressing chat.
Oh,
so
yeah.
as she was saying that, he looked in chat. He's about to address something in chat. So yeah,
that's more than likely what he was doing and why he wasn't paying attention, because he was actually reading the chat and engaging with that in his mind rather than with the conversation.
Yeah, and like you. Yeah, rather than going, okay, yeah, no, these are other factors that I could look at, not just suicide. There are other, you're right, there are. I should do that. He's
But also, like, it's such a sensitive topic. You're not talking about the part of like, oh, hey, you're walking into a bear, blah, blah, blah. Why are you talking about that? No, like we are talking about like tangible human harm and something extremely heartbreaking. And all of a sudden he's just like, oh, look, a squirrel over there.
Let's change the topic.
Attention. But there was some stuff about rape culture or whatever. Were you bringing that?
Whatever. What is that even?
This is and like the fact that they're going to go into this rape culture discussion is the discussion I had with him, and you were present, I think, for most of that discussion.
Yeah, I caught bits of it.
Yeah, this was the prep work I did to have that conversation with him, and so like he's had the discussion before. He should have been able to have the discussion with me. So let's see. Like I was basing my discussion with him about what we're about to watch. So yeah, she did bring up rape culture. Like I'm sure he'll have something really good to say. It won't be Islamophobic. I'm sure it won't be Islamophobic.
Oh damn. Okay. Wow. On top of that, I forgot about that part. Well, I was remembering that I did listen to the interaction. I was sort of listening and more so keeping up with the chat because
I think you were moderating.
We were
chat.
driving. No, we were.
Okay.
It was July 27th, 2025, where I was driving home from NanoCon, and that's what I remember.
Nice.
You know why?
Yeah.
Okay.
That up, or was that somebody else?
Yeah, it was me. I asked
Okay.
2 questions. I said, you've spoken about SJWs in a very negative context on your lives, but do you believe there are positive outcomes from social justice? And then I asked, how do you think rape culture is actualized in 2024, if at all, from a social sciences standpoint?
Okay, so we'll do one and then the other. I don't know if I can come up with one to compare. So like I consider, like obviously Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for social justice. Bernie Sanders fights for social justice. Elizabeth Warren does that kind of thing. I believe in that kind of thing. But social justice warriors that's just a label. Like, I don't know how closely you follow politics or whatever, but a lot of people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez they won't associate with the label progressive because they find it's been polluted by, for example, people that throw tomato soup on artworks to protest oil and people that super glue their hands to basketball games to scream about animal rights and stuff like that. So the label has kind of been poisoned by bad actors. So, for example, somebody who was in one of the pro-Palestine encampments on colleges, a couple months ago, I support what those people are doing. They are fighting for social justice, but the ones that are doing it in a cohesive, safe, logical, nonviolent way, I don't call them social justice warriors because it's just kind of a label that's unfortunately, because of a lot of bad actors, has been.
But then there are different things, dude. Why are you putting them all in one bag?
He also says about like people who are doing it in a way. He's tone policing. First off, he's saying that there is one thing he said that I'll agree with is nonviolent. Like I'm a pacifist. I think nonviolent is great, but like the examples he gave were nonviolent. Gluing your hand to a basketball court for animal rights is nonviolent. Throwing tomato soup at a painting is nonviolent. Like no harm is being done to any people or property here. Like the basketball court's going to be completely fine after it's buffered out. Maybe there might be some skin flakes on it. The frames of those pictures might be damaged, but like the paintings are covered in glass. Like it's fine. I also support like most animal rights. Like someone petrol bombing a animal research center could have been an example he gave, and I would have agreed that like that is bad. Like those people, I don't agree with that. I think that's terrifying. People who attack doctors who perform abortions and stuff like that, terrible. I wouldn't want to associate with those people either. But those aren't the examples he gave. He gave examples of people who are doing something in a cohesive, safe, non-violent way, and then called them bad actors.
That's great. I'm talking about a particular person who does particular things, I think, in a way that does not help the progressive side at all, and they just kind of can be bad people.
Yeah, but then that doesn't mean that you can't call all of those people progressive just
Yeah.
because there's a few that are not, that are extremists, you know.
Yeah, he's basically just he wants to police the term. He wants to say, like, I won't use social justice warrior as a term I associate to people who do real social justice. I'll only use it and apply it to people I deem problematic. He's making the title problematic. Like, that's the thing he's doing. I've talked before about like the atheist community, and like I came to it late. Like I actually joined the community late, having watched a load of atheist content throughout my life, because I saw this anti-SJW movement when it took its roots in the atheist community. Like I saw people like Armored Skeptic and Sargon of Akkad and Thunderfoot when they came out against, like, when Gamergate happened, and they came out and were like vehemently anti-SJW, and he is doing the same thing. The stance he is taking now is by saying, like, these people are social justice warriors and I don't agree with the way that they conduct themselves, and that means that the thing they're doing is bad. Like he's like, this is who I think he is akin to, like these old atheist channels that like kind of fell away because they moved their content to just like anti-feminist hate, and like he's not gone all of that way yet, but like he's definitely like, he has parallels to those people. That the argument type that he is presenting is very, very much on par with those people. So
somebody that fights for, like, you seem like a very leveled and rational and polite person. I wouldn't call you an SJW. Maybe you like I identify with that.
I would say I'm an SJW. I'm just not insane and delusional.
Yeah, and I don't think you are either. So I wouldn't call you an SJW, but I also wouldn't sit here and tell you you should call yourself something else either. It's just kind of like, you got to understand what I mean when I say that. And then,
so the second part of that question.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means. So what I would say, and this might make your head explode, I don't think the United States is a country that has rape culture.
He said that. He said it. He means it.
Brock the Rapist Turner disagrees. So I'm fairly certain that this doesn't come up here, and these are my points. But for a country that doesn't have a rape culture, we sure do have two people with accusations of sexual misconduct on the Supreme Court. We sure do have a person in prison a person in the presidency who should probably be in prison. Someone who has been found by a court to have committed sexual violence against a woman. It was civil court, so he isn't a rapist. He isn't it was civil court, but like they found him liable for the action that he did when he harmed that woman in a sexual way. Like for a country that doesn't have a rape culture, Epstein and his friends sure seem to have gotten away with it for a long time. It kind of feels like they're still getting, for a country that doesn't have a rape culture, we sure do seem to allow rape to happen to people and not properly prosecute. The other point I make in this like circumstance is, like, for a country without a rape culture, rapists sure do get away with it. The prosecution rates are extremely, for a country that doesn't have a rape culture, there sure are a lot of rape kits that haven't been examined.
Oh yeah, that is a pretty huge problem here in Houston. Like it was recently on the news. I don't know, like the amount of untested or unprocessed kits is just mind blowing.
Yeah. That actually doesn't make my head explode at all. Everything that you've said to me is very much in line with someone that doesn't believe that rape culture exists, especially in New York.
So good. So good.
I love that part.
I love her. It was so spicy.
I know, yeah. So like, I love the way that this person gets exactly to the point and gets him to turn around and say the things that he means, you know, like, we know what you mean, man, and you're saying it very, very clearly. Like, we heard it loud and clear.
Sure. So the fact that it's illegal means nothing or it counts for very little? Because like a country like Saudi
I
Arabia,
think that rape culture has much more to do with
right?
many different facets and things that we tolerate on a smaller level.
Sure.
Like you talking about social justice warriors online or individuals who are kind of cuckoo bananas. I think that there is something that like people refer to as like micro, meso, and macro approaches. So when we look at individuals or smaller acts, and then larger communal acts, and then like even larger like things that happen on.
Yeah, he's looking elsewhere.
He's no longer paying
Right.
attention. He was waiting for his turn to talk because she interrupted him when he was talking about his countries like Saudi Arabia, and then she interrupted him, and he
Yeah,
heard
so now
Cocoa
he's
Bananas, and he you saw his mouth go. He wanted to cut in and get back to his point a couple of times, but she's now going to like they're going to make this salient point about the micro macro, like they're going to go into this, and he's gone. He's no longer paying attention.
A national level, let's say, all of these things count. So the rape culture at like a micro level can look like disbelief, sexual harassment, teaching boys that, oh, like let's take her out for drinks and get her like really drunk first, and then she'll be more likely to like let you go home with her. Different tactics of sexual violence that aren't necessarily denounced in our culture that need to be.
Sure. So let me ask. We can go into that stuff. So, like in countries like Saudi Arabia, where if
Yeah, no, he's like, we can go into that, but let me go back to the point that I was making before first.
Yep.
a woman is raped, they just call it extramarital sex, and they'll execute the woman sometimes. Are you willing to say that they have rape culture?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, good. Because another weird thing that you find is sometimes people just won't criticize the rest of the world because they only want to criticize like Western worlds or whatever.
But it doesn't matter because somebody else's experience is worse than yours. Doesn't invalidate either of them.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that one of them didn't happen, you know?
Yep. I have no idea who he's talking to at that point either. I have no idea why he would think that this person that he's talking to would not say that there was a rape culture in Saudi Arabia. Like, everything they've said so far makes me think that they'd be like, yeah, of course there is. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I don't know why he framed it as a question. Like, oh, let me see what you're saying about that.
I also don't know anyone who would say like, oh no, like I think the argument, I forget if he says it, but like it feels like he's saying, well, you know, it's cultural there, and so it's different. Like, I don't know anyone that would say that. Like that seems like a very weird like position to take, that like because the culture is different, then it's not rape culture because it's allowed within like the religion or whatever. Like that seems very strange. That seems a very strange way to word this. And like, again, you don't have to kill a woman for the rape culture part to be a problem. Like he seems to like the same thing when he said about like, oh, women who kill themselves. Like he seems to think that the only way in which women suffer is if they're murdered, and anything else is just a thing that they have to put up with. It's very strange. Like,
it really is.
Rape culture and sexual violence is a global problem.
Okay, cool. So like with regard to the United States, so it sounds like you would say that it's good that we have like this is insane. It wasn't until the 1970s that we actually had like marital rape laws on the books. I think South Dakota was the first state to have one. And that didn't necessarily mean that no husband that ever did that to their wife ever got in trouble. It just wasn't on the books because there was this very old holdover idea that comes from, you see it in the Bible and in holy books or whatever, that, well, it's your property, so you can't be guilty of that to it, which I think is disgusting and depraved. But we now have those laws on the books. That's a good thing, right?
Sure. Can you tell me like what percentage?
I think he's trying to say, well, because we changed the law, therefore there is no more rape culture, as if that was the only a factor that makes rape culture exist.
Yep. Like there's a few things in what you just said, because he also said like this is a holdover idea from like religion. Yeah, it's called the patriarchy. Like it's literally
Talk
called
about
the
that earlier.
patriarchy. Yeah, like he's refused. Like, he used a lot of words to say the patriarchy. He could have just said because we live in a patriarchy, because we live in a world that overwhelmingly favors men, where overwhelmingly men are in positions of power, where overwhelmingly men are making laws. Like again, like the 70s was the rape law thing. Women were able to open their own bank accounts before they were able to file for a no-cause divorce. The reason that women got to have no-cause divorce was because they were able to open their bank accounts. Like the two things coincided. Like it's wild when you start looking at like the history of like women getting the vote and all kinds of different things. Is like it's wild because they coincide with other progressive social changes alongside them. And so 1996, I think, I could be wrong, was the final state that introduced marital rape laws. So like
I think that sounds correct.
Yeah, touching on the first one is great, but then you have to think it took 26 years for the final state to introduce these laws. So that's a whole long time where we were like, it's okay in certain places for this to happen. So like you can talk about, oh, it's illegal everywhere now, so that's great, but like we're just going to ignore the entire discussion about it then because there's a law now. We don't have to talk about anyone who was married before then just having to put up with rape if that's the marriage they found themselves in. Because again, you could say that there was a cause for divorce in that you were being raped. Like that could be like my husband is doing sexual violence, but if it's not illegal, why would it be a cause for a divorce? The other thing he does, which is really sinister, he says that it doesn't mean that up until then that men were getting away with it. That there weren't men who were getting punished for that kind of thing. What kind of punishment were they getting before it was illegal? Before it was illegal, men who raped their wives, what punishment were they getting? Because it wasn't criminal, and it wasn't social. Like the fact that the social, like again, it took 26 years for the final state. So the social stigma associated with raping your wife wasn't there, clearly, because the law didn't get changed until there was enough of a social movement willing to get that changed, right? That's how it works. Society moves first, then the law catches up. That's how all of these things happen. It's very rare that a law is introduced, then society changes how it feels about things. Typically speaking, laws come in after society has already deemed certain things to be a problem. And so society was already pushing. So like there's a little bit of an argument that maybe there's some social stigma. But again, if you couldn't hold them legally accountable for the thing that they were doing because there was no crime, what punishment are you talking about? They were still married. They were still raping their wives. Like they were still continuing to do that thing. Like, oh well, some men would have struggled. He keeps framing men as the victims. Even
and it's
in
been
this,
like for about 30 years since the last state law change.
Yeah.
It's not even enough time to make any tangible change to the societal stigma of it.
Yep.
More of like husbands that have raped their wives have gone to prison, like from then till now, like the increase, because I would say that intimate partner violence is still something that is very under prosecuted in the US, and that's part of the reason why I say rape culture still exists.
I don't know what the numbers off the top of my head are. I would be surprised if we don't have, well, funny enough, I would be surprised if the numbers were not trending downward. And what I mean by that is like positively, like the trend wasn't what we want to see. But at the same time, it may be underreported in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of confusing. It's like we said, there was a stigma to it. And do you really think that the women who are being raped by their husbands are majorly going to go and report that? No, because it's being done repeatedly, because they know their lives are already in danger. And if they do report it, then, it's only going to get worse, if not, end their lives.
Yep, it's very rare as well that like that's the only kind of abuse that's occurring. It's not as if like it's a perfect husband except for the rape. Like more often than not, there is other intimate violent behavior there.
Yeah, manipulation instead of can
Exactly,
be
yeah.
coercion, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of a common phenomenon. Like something can look like it's much more prevalent because it's historically been underreported. So I don't know. I don't know the numbers. I don't know the meta-analyses or whatever. So I'm not
Intimate
gonna.
partner violence is still one of the more underreported crimes. Stranger rape is going to be like the most reported form of sexual violence.
That makes sense.
It's statistically true, yeah.
Yeah.
There's this book. I think you should write it down. You might find it interesting. It's on Audible if you use that. It's called
He
Credible
hasn't read it.
by Deborah Turkenheimer, and it goes over like the history of the way rape is prosecuted and other forms of sexual violence.
Let me pretend I'm jotting it down.
It's an interesting read. Might inform your arguments a little bit better.
Sure. So do you think that we have made progress on this kind of thing, or do you think
I would love to ask him if he actually read it, by the way. He'll probably like, what?
Ask him if he can
Which
still
one?
name it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you name the book that was like, and like, sure, he has lots of these conversations, so maybe I'm being mean there and thinking but like,
But if
like,
he
if he
read
did
it,
read
he will
it-
remember it.
if he did read it, he should remember why. Yeah.
He'd likely, yeah.
we are stagnant, or do you think things are getting worse?
Okay, well, progress and stagnant can kind of coexist, right? I think that there has been progress made and things are now stagnant. There is still a lot of things that need to change. Lots of
Right, but something getting better doesn't mean that it no longer exists. Just because, rape culture may be, there may be more awareness of its existence, and we have more laws, doesn't mean that it no longer, poof, gone.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day as well who was saying that you can also look at like Gen X and millennials, and like there's a curve where like progress was being made, and like the person saying like, but it plateaued. It's actually going backwards. Like Gen Z and I think Gen Alpha, like the people who are being influenced by like the manosphere of today are actually more likely to think that like rape culture doesn't exist, that the problems have been solved, that women are just complaining, that like this isn't a real problem that we have to address. Like people at my age group like are going to be more acutely aware of these things than some people in the younger generations, because of the way that the media and the way we talk about these things is shifting. Like the men's rights movement has done a lot of harm, basically.
Yeah, so like she said, there can be improvement in certain areas, but not in others. So, or worsening even.
Rapists don't go to prison. There's lots of like statistical evidence to show that individuals who commit or are convicted of acts of sexual violence have been serial offenders by the time that they are accused, or like not accused, but reported.
That's the case for pretty much all violent crime. Most violent crime is committed by recidivists.
He's missing the point. So like she said, because of the underreporting, because of the under prosecution, by the time people are caught and prosecuted, or at least reported, they've done it like it's a serial offense. And he's like, well, most crimes, violent crimes, are recidivists. Like most of these crimes are done by people who do it over and over again. No, he misses the point. It isn't that most people who rape multiple times. There are plenty of people who commit one rape and then never rape again. Like that is a thing that happens. Like
right.
A lot of the statistics we have on rape is self-reports by men who rape. It's people who say, I have committed sexual violence. Like there'll be a questionnaire and they'll say, yeah, I did. Like I have engaged in this in the past, but I no longer do. Like there is a lot of that. And he is completely misconstruing it. He thinks that the rape numbers are so high because there's people who just rape over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like,
and I say he missed the point in so many ways. And It's like every time he's just going, well, not all men, and he's going with this, pointing out the smaller statistic
Yeah.
to try to excuse the large one. It's kind of like saying, oh, hey, you know what? Some people file false sexual assault reports. Therefore, none of them are true. And no, that's
Yeah.
not the case. That does happen, but there's such a small percentage that you can't just not believe victims because there are cases where it's a false accusation.
Yeah.
And the same way, like, no, not all men are rapists, but you cannot discredit the fact that the majority of sexual assault against women are done by men to women, just because a small tiny amount is done by other women, like, because you have lesbians, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, sure, you can have sexual assaults by a woman to another woman, right, or by a woman to a man, etc. So
Yep.
okay.
Right, but I don't think with grape that should be something that's the case. And there are
well, I don't
other
think it should be
significant
for anything. So I mean, we
that
agree, but
can
yeah.
occur, right? I think that it's not really something that's talked about a lot or enough. It's kind of viewed as like taboo or like, ooh. The way that reporting is handled, like by police, there needs to be more trauma-informed detectives and officers taking report. Lots of things need to change. I think that by encouraging reporting and making a culture where it's safe to do so, and like we believe victims, is much more conducive to the ending of sexual violence, or at least the silence surrounding it, because that is something that causes that recidivism, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would say I think there should be top-down approaches to it. I mean, there should be like legislation and stuff. And I mean, like, employers have to do mandatory sexual harassment training and stuff. And you can say people don't take it seriously and it still happens. But I mean, obviously, I think that we probably have made progress with this kind of thing. But I mean, you can't argue that we shouldn't employ those types of things. But I think real social change kind of happens from the bottom up, right? I mean, like, going back to MLK, it was called the Million Man March, right? These were huge groups of ordinary people that got together and mobilized and organized.
What is he?
Yeah, I could.
What's going on?
The Million Man March wasn't Martin Luther King. Like, I'm pretty certain. I'm not American. I haven't done a lot of American history, but I'm pretty sure that it was a different. I'm pretty sure it was a different thing. He's thinking of the march that they did to DC, right? Like, they made the almost certain that they're two separate things.
Louis Farrakhan. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. That's
But
who.
the years are going to be completely different as well.
Oh yeah, 1995.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was definitely Martin Luther King. he hadn't been assassinated decades prior. Like talk about showing your hand though. Like, again, I'm
68. Yeah, that was like.
I'm possibly being uncharitable, but like, it doesn't feel like he's well informed or well educated on these topics that he's discussing. So
yeah, we're given that. Okay, maybe he got the name of the person wrong, but
he got the name of the march wrong. Yeah.
One or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that bottom up approach was extremely effective. So I guess, like, sort of my question would be like, what do we like? Do you think that, like, starting in kindergarten or something, like, little boys should be told?
Actually, AJ,
like, I think you need to teach people, like,
just one more thing before he changes the topic here. The progress that followed Martin Luther King was because of the riots that followed after Martin Luther King's death. He was talking earlier about how, like, he thinks non-violent protest and
violence.
But
then now he's like, but that was a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying, like, the march is what made change, but like, the change didn't happen in Martin Luther King's lifetime. That's why Martin Luther King was, like, active. If he
inspiration,
if he experienced the change, then we would have footage of him talking about the laws that were being passed and the progress that was being made. But he died, and then there were riots. Like, people went out and like were like pushing with violence for this to happen. And also, even within Martin Luther King's lifetime, there was violence. That's why he's like spoken about as pushing nonviolence. Like, there's a reason we know about like Gandhi and Martin Luther King and people who promote non-violent forms of protest, because those are the ones that the governments are going to allow to be taught. Like, you can talk about non-violent protest and the changes that can come from that, but like, the systems of oppression don't want to tell you that you have to be violent. And again, as a pacifist, I would like to live in a world where we don't have to be violent. I want us to be able to make political change through non-violence. That is a world I want to live in. That is what I push for. That is what I advocate for. Like, I want that. But he's just hand waving it away. He's like, oh, it comes from the bottom up, and I don't believe in violent people who are doing it in a respectful way. Yeah.
Right from wrong, obviously, but like, what do you think we should also do?
I think that consent education is necessary from a young age and up. Obviously, tuning it to what is age appropriate for whatever demographic you're teaching. I'm also a big advocate for teaching victims' rights and like the reporting process in school, not like to kindergartners, but like, let's say the age that you're most likely to like endure sexual violence, like going into college, let's say 10th grade and up. That should just be something that's kind of drilled into your head. I think it takes away a lot of fear about reporting and arms people with enough knowledge to know what should and should not happen. That they are entitled to an advocate, to like have an advocate present when they see like report to the police or they are interviewed, things of that nature. But you were talking about the Million Man March. I think that's a really good point, because those individual, let's say, quote unquote, million men, would be those social justice warriors that you kind of shit talk.
No, because they weren't. They didn't march to the Capitol and do what Trump's goon squad did. They marched there and were peaceful. So we went over the distinction between SJW as a label for bad actors versus
right. And I told you that I.
Yeah, but it is missing the point of what we were just talking about, that the riots were what actually changed.
But also, like, the Million Man March itself was seen as a violent act at the time. Like, the authorities treated that as violence. Like, the threat of 1 million people bearing down on, like, he can talk about like January 6th being more violent, but again, like, this is something you touched on earlier. Like, just because something is more violent than the other doesn't mean that the first one wasn't also like violent, right? Like, yeah, the rape culture in X country might be worse than the rape culture here, but that doesn't matter. The January 6th thing is like, the reason it was as violent as it was is because they didn't have the numbers. They couldn't just have 1 million people standing there saying, we demand change, which is intimidating. Like, it might not be violence in the way that the January 6th guys were, but like, there is an intimidation and there is an inherent violence within that process. There is a threat of violence that is still being reacted to, even in the Million Man March. But yeah, when it comes to Martin Luther King and the changes that we saw there, actual violence is what made that change. Quelling the riots, giving some movement towards social justice that Martin Luther King wanted, in order to like appease the people who were out there saying, we need this change. Like, look at what happens when we don't have it. Like, the most prominent speaker that you allow to be on the platform. And also, like, it was the CIA, I think, that killed Martin Luther King. Like, they orchestrated that whole entire thing. So like, it's not non-violent. Like, the violent end that
came from inside the house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I would consider myself an SJW, so
yeah, that's fine.
The people that I know,
you and I just mean a different thing when we say that, and that's fine.
That's not fine.
Like, I also think it's really important that people who are like mandatory reporters do that job. They also like conduct themselves to a high ethical standard. So like myself, I'm a mandatory reporter. I'm also like a rape crisis advocate. Like if I saw some shit on Instagram that was like out of my jurisdiction, I would still do my best to reach out, report like whatever shit I saw that was off the wall. Like I saw, never mind, I shouldn't say that on here what I saw the other week, but and do my best to make sure that whoever it is either reported or gets the support that they need.
So I want to ask you a question. So, like all
Doesn't
this,
address
like
what she said.
That is probably completely, yeah, I was gonna say that is probably completely unrelated because you could hear the clicking. That wasn't me, by the way. That was Fallon Peterson clicking and clicking and
he was
moving the
checking his
chat,
shirt
and
yeah.
and then he starts like yawning. And, I mean, yeah, like we have, we're not like 100,000%
We're not robots,
focused
yeah.
all the time, but there are conversations where there are times when I do live shows where I focus on the guest, and I know that there is a live chat, but I don't keep up with it as much as I would, with a more laid back conversation, because I know it's like a serious topic or something that requires your full attention. Or sometimes I will do it pre-recorded like right now because I don't want the distractions from the chat or from other things. And it's like, yeah, he's not. Now he's gonna ask something completely unrelated. I'm sorry, I don't remember this part, but I'm certain because of the way he looks around and he's like, oh, I'm thinking about something totally different because I didn't give a shit about what she just said. So let me ask you a question.
You made a salient point. Let me ignore it.
Yeah.
like when I said, "What do you think we should do?" and you gave your points, I don't disagree with any of that. That all sounds fine. You do kind of worry about like to what extent it goes, and like you want to make sure that it's implemented.
How do you worry to what he clearly did not listen to anything she said because there is no concerns to like what extent it goes.
One of the
It
first
was
things.
reasonable.
Yeah, one of the first things was consent-based education, and then she said tailored to the age group that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, and now he's like, well, you got to worry about like how it's being implemented. Yeah, that was addressed. That was addressed in the thing she said. You would have heard it if you listened.
Right, yeah, or like, hey, mandated reporters should be ethical. Like, can you be too ethical? Are you saying this shouldn't be too ethical or something? Yeah, there were no points there that should cause any concern, but yeah.
In the correct way. Like, I don't want to get into this conversation, but like, I don't think that you should teach boys from a young age that there's this thing called toxic masculinity and blah, 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 because I think that can be...
why?
Because I think that can be...
Yeah, why is the question. Like, what is wrong with saying, okay, we can teach young boys about there being such a thing as murder, right? Or lying or whatever, and say, don't do that. This is why you shouldn't. Or maybe not don't do that. Maybe like, this is why it's a bad idea to do that. These are the consequences of that. And this is a better way to handle XYZ. So yeah, of course you can say, hey, there is such a thing as toxic masculinity, and this is how it presents in people your age, and this is how it presents in people, in the next stage. Like, let's not get too far ahead. Like we are not gonna go into like rape and all that at I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. But you can teach them what they might experience up to age 13 if they're like 8 or so. It's like a good gap right there. Like, hey,
something
the
like
next
their
few years,
siblings.
yeah. Or like some of your friends group, like your friends have siblings too that you may encounter and experience that sort of toxic masculinity, and this is how you can handle better, and this is how you can be a better young person, like this is, you know, how you can respect people of a different gender, right?
Yeah. The argument here as well is like the idea that you can't teach anyone about toxic masculinity underlies the fact that you probably don't understand what toxic masculinity is. Like you
probably are one.
yeah, like yep.
Extremely harmful for their development and their self-esteem. Like, I don't.
Why? So do you think it's like just toxic masculinity in general, or the way that it's framed?
But I am sure he is fine with little girls being taught not to be raging feminists.
Right. Yeah. Like
he wouldn't find that harmful.
He's like, it might harm their development or their self-esteem, which means he wants them to acquire toxic masculine traits. That's what he's saying.
Pretty
He's saying
much.
that
Yeah,
yeah, like they might develop a trait that you tell them is like part of toxic masculinity, and that might hurt their self-esteem. I'm down for hurting kids' self-esteem if they are showing traits of toxic masculinity. Like it's a good thing to say, you know, when you get angry, you shouldn't get violent. Like that is a sign of toxic masculinity. There's an inability to handle your anger or aggression in a healthy way. Like part of teaching about toxic masculinity is giving people the tools to like allow that outlet. There's when I left the UK, like part of the mental health treatment that they were starting to like experiment with was people who were suffering depression were being sent on like music courses and comedy courses and like being given ways to express themselves and the feelings that they had, and like that would be part of teaching kids about toxic masculinity. Like you would provide them with these outlets for that. But he doesn't want that to be taught. He wants these kids to develop their anger and not know how to deal with it. Like that's what he's saying. It would hurt their self-esteem, because if they feel angry and they're told that feeling is harm or could be harmful, well, they might feel bad about themselves. That's not what the education will be. The education isn't going to be you should be fair, you should feel bad if you express this. Why would that be the education that's being given?
Yeah.
It's
like he's saying, don't teach little boys not to be murderers. Let them. That's going to like tarnish their development of serial murderers.
right. Yeah, it's going to hurt their esteem before they even carry out their first murder.
Poor children.
Poor
not
kids.
being allowed to murder.
So I'm not making like a specific accusation. I'm not saying that this has happened. I'm saying that I would worry about how that would actually get talked about to them. Because like can't you imagine that telling boys from like a really young age, if you don't do it the correct way, you're just telling them you are bad, and maybe that's not your intention.
I think that's kind of what toxic masculinity does, though.
Well, just let me get my thing out here. That sounds so bad. It without any context, it sounds like a Harvey Weinstein thing. If
not
you
the conversation for that,
even
joke.
If you have good intentions, the message can come across that way, and I think that can be detrimental and harmful. I think you can start to have real conversations, quote unquote real, like we know what I mean by that. At a certain age, like you said, 10th grade and above, that's where you can get into like kind of more specifics and maybe the more like, I don't know, grown up adult themes or the more serious stuff or whatever. So anyways, I don't really want to get into that too much, but so like I said, pretty much everything you said, I thought that sounded okay. And I just want to hear your take on this kind of thing, because I find this to be really annoying and counterproductive. Do you remember those guys that created a nail polish and you could dip it in a drink and the nail polish would change color if it had whatever the date rape drug or whatever is in it?
Or whatever.
Sorry?
GHB or whatever.
I don't know what it's called, but do you remember that? It was a while. It was years ago, but do you remember that at all?
Vaguely, yeah. I know of it.
So
Like she just told you the name. Clearly, she knows about it.
If that was the right thing, like I'm not sure because I don't know what it's called either. But like
yeah, I don't either. But like she was attempting to and kind of like insinuating that she knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
You remember what the public response to that was?
No.
So people just were irate. They like all you heard, and I don't know if the invention ever like went anywhere because of just such bad publicity, which to me is counterproductive. But all people said was, "How about we just teach men not to rape?" Instead of like
valid
what? Instead of like what?
This is
that should not have been there.
Yeah, this is such a like. So I'm going to at some point mute my mic and find these tweets, but like the outrage that he says that like happened at the time was things like, well, you know, if women don't want to get raped, they just have to remember to wear their nail varnish that tells them if there's a date rape drug in their drink.
I remember that.
Like women are already doing as much as they can to not get raped. They shouldn't have to remember the nail varnish. You already get judges who say outrageous shit like, well, what were you wearing? Now they're going to say, well, did you have the special nail varnish that lets you know if you're being date raped? And also, shocking, I know, not everyone who gets raped is under the effects of a date rape drug. That is a fraction.
It's pretty small.
It's not as if it's going to stop marital rape. It's not like she's going to wear her nail varnish and she's going to recognize the color change when he gets home from work. Like, this is a very, very specific case. And he's like, well, we should applaud these men who came up with this idea. We should applaud them, the work that they're putting in to keep women safe. It's too late. Their drinks have already been spiked. The date rape drug is already...
idea was already there.
Yeah. Like, and let's say that someone wearing this nail varnish puts their finger into their drink and it changes color. Great. Now they know someone tried to rape them.
Now what?
Like, yeah, now what? Like, they're still going to be harmed. Sure, it won't be as much as if they had been raped, but like, that's still a violation. The violation has already happened. It's too late. He's against teaching men about toxic or boys about toxic masculinity. The person he's talking to talked earlier about how rape culture is the fact that men will take women out to get drunk, whether there's drugs involved, like whether there's a date rape drug or not, they might just give them enough alcohol to make them more suggestible. Like, this is already a problem. The fact that it's not safe for women to go and drink in a public place without covering their drinks is the problem. We tackle that with education at an early enough age. We tackle that with training people to be on guard for these things. Like, if you see your friend acting shitty around women, you should call out your friend for acting shitty around women. Like, it's like, I don't understand where he's coming from, other than just, again, putting the onus on women to ensure that they don't get raped.
And there's the fact that there are some cases where, well, there are actually a pretty high incidence that they say the sexual assaults often happen at the hands of a man that the woman already knows, right? That is a friend or a family member, etc. Especially for children, that is, I think, is a lot higher. But in the case of, let's say, somebody goes willingly and they have drinks, we know that the more sober person, who is the one that is trying to initiate the interaction, tends to get the other person drunk, and they don't need to add any type of rape drug or any other drug to the mix, because the other person already trusts them and they're already offering drinks to that person. I mean, like, hey, you want another drink, instead of like, hey, you want to have a coffee or something and, you know, not get drunker, because they know that person's going to be more vulnerable once they have more drinks in them.
And there's also like, it's more socially acceptable to just keep plying someone with alcohol than it is to give them a date rape drug. And so like, that's, again, part of the rape culture that he denies exists. Like, he's like, well, some people use date rape drugs and that obviously is bad. But the fact that like the fact that like people go out drinking, and like he already dismissed it when she said it earlier. I don't know what that has to do with Man v Bear. Like it's like it's just so, it's such toxic masculinity. That's what it is. Like everything he displays is aligned with this toxic masculinity.
It really is. Yeah, and I know she pointed that out earlier. So yeah.
No, I think that's a completely. It's not untrue. I think
both things have to happen. Continue,
right. So
sorry.
here's the problem with that. When it's not untrue that we should teach. I may use a double negative here and then confuse my message, but we absolutely should teach people that that's wrong, right? But when somebody's trying to do something about an actually occurring problem, and it just gets shouted down with, well, why don't you actually do blah, blah, blah? That would take generations to see the effects, because any kind
so let's not do it because it's going to be too much effort. Instead, we deal with the symptoms instead of curing the disease.
Yep. It's like I'm not shocked that he brought up the Just Stop Oil protests, that he doesn't agree with those. You know, it's going to take generations. Well, we don't have generations. The reason the Just Stop Oil people are doing the protesting the way they're protesting is because we don't have generations. We don't have it, and like we didn't have generations ago. Like was touched on earlier, marital rape laws within like people watching this within your lifetime. My dad in certain states could have just been raping my mum. I could be a product of a marital rape that wasn't prosecuted because it wasn't illegal. Like there's all of this like. When someone says to me, well, it could take generations, my response is, I wish we'd started generations ago then. Like, that's why it's not a reason to not start now.
Yeah, except for like it's too much work. I don't wanna.
Yep. Or it will hurt these young men's it'll hurt their self-esteem and their development. It might stunt the growth. They might not be masculine enough by the time they reach puberty, and you know.
Well, yeah, we watched a little short clip where he calls another man a femboy, even though the man does not self-describe as a femboy. Yeah, so he sees them as like weak or lesser men, you know, because femininity is clearly weak.
Yeah, the only truly masculine traits are the ones that people want to call toxic. Yeah.
Kind of process like that takes a lot of time. What about the really occurring thing that we have going on right now? This would be helpful to that, and instead,
like, shocker, but we can have the nail polish, and we can try to work on, hey, why don't we work also on men not becoming toxic and not raping women and not putting date rape drugs on their drinks? Why not both?
Like I would rather come up with some kind of thing that like stains man's hands if they touch a date rape drug, because like
because then it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, because again, like you're putting the onus on women to do something with their body as a victim, and not
to stop for their harm.
Yeah, and not a way that we can identify these men prior to it happening. Like, how about?
And then he will like be ashamed, or I guess they could learn to not handle it in a way that wouldn't stain. But
how about we have we
get the point.
Yeah, like better bouncers.
Something that self-identify them.
Yeah, before it even happens, like.
It just kind of gets shouted down. I can't stand when I see stuff like that, because it's so, like, I find it to be like counterproductive or whatever. And I'm just wondering like what your sentiment is.
No, like counterproductive is the nail polish. It's the counterproductive, not the teaching men not to rape.
Yeah. I think that both approaches are necessary. So I wouldn't like shout down testing nail polish, but I would also say it's necessary. So what you said about teaching men not to like grape is part of like a counter argument to grape culture. It has to do with women being taught not to get raped, right? Which is part of the reason why people were so irate over the nail polish. But realistically, both approaches are necessary. And it's not just like it's not, Jesus Christ. It's not just about teaching men not to grape, right? It's about teaching men consent and those tactics of sexual violence that I talked about before. There's a whole list done by the CDC based on like statistical evidence that you can like.
Because guess what? It's not a radical idea to teach men not to rape. Like she said, starting with consent. That is the bare minimum.
Yep.
You know,
Like,
and it is what will lead to them realizing that that is not, right. Yeah, go ahead.
Like I had sex education when I went to school. Like I think I was 15 and I went to a Catholic high school, and we had sex education.
Surprising.
And right, so the board of the school, being a Catholic school, couldn't allow the teachers to teach it. So what had to happen was a youth association came in, and the teacher stepped out of the room, and then the youth association would do this training for us, and that was the lesson that we got. And we didn't learn much about consent. It was like,
not surprised.
yeah, and like consent education should come first. Like it's so easy to do age specific consent education, teaching kids these are your toys, and like there are right times to share it and there are wrong times to share it, and there are certain people that there are certain people who shouldn't be touching your things. And then like at a certain age, you then like, hey, you know what? Your body is yours, and there are different parts of your body, and certain people shouldn't be touching certain parts of your, like, consent-based education is really useful and can go across like whatever age. Like it's not difficult to do, and yet people push back on it because they're like, well, I'm not going to teach kids about sex. Yeah, we're not teaching kids about sex. Like, of course not. That's not what the education is going to be. Like,
yeah, and like I said, you can also teach, okay, if this toy belongs to you, sure, sharing is nice, but you are allowed to say no. And so are other people. And another example, if you are both playing with the toy and the toy belongs to somebody else, and that person, while you're in the middle of playing, says, hey, I don't want to play anymore, and I'm going to go over there with my toy. Respect that line. Because it is their toy. So yeah, that you can teach consent in that way, and not necessarily make it about sex until age appropriate time comes, and be like, hey, remember to talk about the toys? This applies here too. But they will already sort of have
they're primed for it.
They already understand, like, hey, this applies to toys. Okay, it may also apply to food. It may also apply to whatever, like my drinks, etc.
But like, again, like, just to touch on the comedy special again, I'll plug it again because it's fucking awesome. But Daniel Sloss, X is the name of it. If it's free on his website, you just have to like use a VPN or be in a country that doesn't have HBO. I think it's HBO or Netflix, one of them. But yeah, like, he wants as many people to see it as possible, and it talks about really good stuff. And like in that, there is this like discussion about consent and about the idea that, oh no, I've lost it. It'll come back to me.
Okay. Because we don't want to spoil it too much. We were talking about the comedy show and consent. So
like he talks about sex education and is like how it should be done, like the proper way to do sex education and stuff. And it's just I just, for me, it's so hard to grapple with people like Planet Peterson here, who I don't know how he listens to this person telling him all of this stuff and just holds his unshifting view. It just feels like, again, like it's easy to say it's toxic masculinity, but it does just feel like, it's just like, I am right and you are wrong, and I'm gonna say we're both right. but then I'm going to continue to push my point over yours. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't seem to be willing to engage in a conversation. He's just engaging in sort of a one-sided monologue or push for his views only.
yeah, and like also like just engaging with straw men. Like the amount of times he's brought up like, well, do you think this? And then we'll get the answer, and he's like, oh, okay, because other people say X, and it's like, cool. Like he's arguing now about like there was this outrage at this nail polish, and like the person you're talking to is like, yeah, no, I think there's room for both. And he's not engaging with there's room for both. He's still engaging with, well, it's sad that people were outraged. Like, I think that takes us backwards. I think we should be supportive of these radical ideas of women trying not to get raped.
Pretty radical now.
Pretty radical.
Read if you're interested. But like, it's about teaching them that those things are not ways to get with a woman, or like, it's not so cool that she slept with you after you got her really drunk, or that like you lied about who you were to sleep with her. Things like that also play a factor, and we should be teaching people that that's wrong, not putting it in TV shows and making people like make it look cool. That's also like another part of grave culture.
Yeah, I don't even really disagree, I guess, with most. Are you Canadian?
She's done that so many times. I don't disagree, I guess. Fuck me.
Yeah. It's like I really just wish he'd repeat a point back every so often. Like, I don't disagree, so you do agree. So could you still man the point? Like, could you tell me the point that you agree with, instead of saying I don't necessarily disagree, maybe, I guess. Like, it's very disingenuous and dismissive. Like, it isn't confirming that he's listened to what's been said. It isn't confirming that he's like, oh no, actually that is like tell your viewers who are listening to this person speak what parts of the things she said were good, what parts are the parts that you agree with, because like,
or
it's very it's very hard to like it's very obvious when he's saying the parts he doesn't disagree, like the parts he disagrees with, because he's arguing back and he's pushing back, and sometimes he's pretending to be Trump supporting, immigration hating like person over there. Sometimes his I'm not saying this, but then says that, but like sometimes he'll engage in a way that like, does he?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like, do you disagree with what she's saying, or are you just playing devil's advocate in this? And like, it's not entirely clear. What is clear is he doesn't understand.
Yeah, like he missed the entire point that by using the racist analogy, he was being racist in the first place already. So he's like, well, that's racist, but here I am being racist. But it's okay because I'm a white guy.
Yeah, and I'm on your side.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. When you said about, I could I don't know. I've kind of run out of things to talk about, I guess, but we did like 45 minutes.
Cool. So
sounds like we agree on way more than we disagree, though.
So
I don't know about that. I don't disagree, I guess.
You've done these like call-in shows. I haven't. Is it typical when you're ending a discussion like that to say, well, we got 45 minutes out of this, I think that's plenty of content, or I guess we agree on more than we don't, which is patently untrue to anyone who watched the video. Like, and then she was still talking. Like they were either going to ask a question or make another point, like not going back to them to say, hey, is there anything like you'd like me to take away from this discussion? Like, what is it that, like, if you could have one thing here that you want to say, like, you want to make sure people, like, some way of signing off to show that you respect the conversation you've just had. And it, like, the ending is like, it like just shows.
They were in the middle of that, hey, what can we do to fix this conversation? And he just like didn't even care to go more in that. Like, he didn't even give any of his suggestions. Okay, she gave a lot of them, and he's just like, well, I don't think we should.
Yep. And like I said, like there's so much straw manning going on, and like the whole, well, there are marital rape laws. Do you think that's progress? Yeah, but do you think it's ended the problem? Like he doesn't address that. Like he seems to think that because the laws have changed somewhat in some aspects, because rape is illegal, there isn't a rape culture. Like I maybe it's me, maybe I'm just too woke, but I don't understand how you can't recognize the rape culture that exists. Like the person talking to him just said, like in media it's like portrayed as cool that you got this girl really drunk and then you had sex. And like we see in songs and art and movies and TV, like we see these tropes repeated over and over and over and presented as if it's okay. Like these are sending messages to people. Like I had to unlearn so much in my relationships because I expected certain things, because I just
Right.
I there was a point in my life where I thought I was entitled to sex. I remembered the Daniel Sloss thing. He was talking about sex education and how the way it was taught to him was man gets erect, man puts his penis inside woman, man ejaculates. And what that did to him was say women are vessels. Like the process of sex is that a man goes under a physiological change.
This idea of women being property that we talked about before, like you can use them for the purpose of your sexual pleasure.
Yeah, it is so worrying that like people like Planet Peterson can like, again, like it's a thing I struggle with, and I'm lucky enough that I grew up around feminists. Like my early childhood, not the case, but like my first girlfriend, it was a long-term relationship. She's a massive feminist. She's like she did a gender studies master's degree, and so like I kind of got to sit in on some of that. Like I saw her doing her homework, like writing her essays. Like I got to engage in those conversations. She went and worked in that field, and so like I'm surrounded by people having these discussions. And like I said earlier with the atheist stuff, like I remember going and having the discussion like, well, yeah, no, you know, men are victims too. Like, yeah, they are. Like,
Right. Oh yeah, we don't deny that.
Yeah, and like I had those shitty opinions, but I had, like you said earlier, that like I had women around me who were willing to educate me. I looked for more information. I asked the right questions. And throughout that entire exchange that we just watched, he asked all of the wrong questions. Like instead of diving deeper into the information he was being given, he was
dismissing it and asking
dismissing and moving on.
Yeah.
I think the last question he asks is, "Were you Canadian? Are you Canadian?" Like,
yeah, like what? I don't know where he was going with that. But
yeah,
I'm kind of glad he didn't, because it would have been probably something absolutely dumb.
Yeah, but like just the dismissiveness of like the way he moved from one question to the other. And again, like I haven't watched a lot of his stuff. I've seen enough. Yeah, like I said earlier, you've done these calling shows. You've engaged in these conversations. The making a point and then just completely dismissing it and moving on to something else, especially when it's a point that like he was presenting a straw man and asking her to engage. That's bad form, right? Like,
yeah. And generally at the end of the conversation, if you feel like it's winding down, like if you're out of time, okay, yeah, I understand, like you kind of have to quickly, or if you're like, oh, hey, I have 3 other callers and this amount of time, let's try to keep it, respectful, so to respect the other callers' time as well. But like you don't suddenly just feel like, oh, I feel like we're done, bye. No, like generally ask the person, okay, hey, I feel like we've covered, like we've answered the question that you called with. Is there anything else? Like, do you have any other questions, or is there anything else that you would like to address before we move on to the next caller? He was just so dismissive so quickly, and just like, hey, bye.
Yeah. And like I touched on it earlier, but like the discussion I had with him elsewhere, and like again, this might be bad form for me to bring up a conversation I had with him while he's not here to sort of argue his positions, but he engaged in bad form discussion, so I'll do it here. When I talked about the fact that like there are accusations made against Brett Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas that have reason to be looked into, have reason to be investigated, have reason, like there is reason to pause and think about their like the position that they're applying for, right? That they're being interviewed about. And when I raised this point, it was like, well, do you think they should be arrested? Of course I don't. Of course I don't. Not on the information we have. That's what the criminal justice system is for. But what I do know is they shouldn't be elected to the highest seats of our government.
True.
A lifetime appointment where they get to decide on the laws that are going to affect women, are going to affect women's bodies. And like Roe v. Wade got overturned while those two people who are possibly like sexual deviants, possibly sexually violent, like allegedly for legal purposes, obviously. But again, like these are claims that were made, and what did we see in both those claims? People dragging the victims through the mud. The people who accused them and said, hey, I have corroborating accounts from the time where I spoke to people, and you can go and interview people who I haven't spoken to since university and ask them the story. I remember telling them, so ask them if they remember. And then certain people did go and do that, and they asked, and they did, and they corroborated the story. They said, nope, I remember I was at that party. I remember her going upstairs. There were already people up there. I remember her leaving immediately afterwards because she was upset. Like there are stories like that you have that are moments for pause. And I'm not saying that enough is reason to act, right? I'm not saying that like these people should go to jail. Like again, he did the same thing. It was the straw man thing. It was like trying to insert what he thought my position should be. Like, right. Well, if you believe that, then you must want these people to be in prison. I don't want every man who's accused of rape to go straight to jail. Of course not. I want there to be an investigation into these things, like to get witnesses, to do rape kits, like the things we've talked about. But more than that, I want the education system to have more men like me, more men who are like, this is wrong. This is just flat wrong. And people who are willing to say, you can lump me in with the bad guys. It's okay. Like I see no problem with spaces that I'm not welcome in, right? Like I want there to be minority spaces where I as a white person or I as a man or I as a cis person are not welcome in, because those spaces aren't for me and they don't have to be. And it just feels like Planet Peterson is the kind of guy who's going to sit there and argue, well, this is discrimination against me.
Sexism.
Sexism.
I was recently talking to an investigator, and we were talking about what you just discussed, right? The cases where now the atheist community tends to hold the position of believe the victim, and I do as well. However, I think that the safest position to take in believing the victim is to start from a neutral standpoint of not disbelieving the victim, right? But also making sure that, like you said, okay, we don't believe in the victim implies that automatically the man is the accused is guilty. Whereas not disbelieving the victim means that you are going to corroborate what the claims are to ensure that you get the proper justice, and that and also that the accused gets the proper punishment. Same thing, justice will imply that they will get the punishment. And so I think that's where we have to start, because a lot of times you have the case that you just shared where there is this claim, and sure, it happened ages ago, but you can look at it you can look at, I don't know, at any type of other evidence, messages, phone calls, witness accounts, and it all lines up. And so you're like, okay, this is credible. Even if you don't have a smoking gun, it is a credible accusation.
Yeah.
And then you have other cases where it's like, okay, well, yeah, this is the claim that is being made, but look, there are 5 different witnesses that are saying something that is completely different, but they don't know each other, but they're all saying the same thing. So that's odd. And then you have this video that doesn't match what this person said, but it matches what the witnesses are saying. So it's like you can question that and say, put that in the very, very small percentage of false accusations, but it doesn't mean that you have to dismiss every single other one and like put these people in high positions when there is such a credible account.
Yeah.
And
Like
many witness accounts and all of those sorts of evidence.
And that's like only talking about the cases of like the Supreme Court. Like again, like with the president of the country at civil court was
There's a
found
lot
to
there.
have like the fact that like we don't have to go into all of it, but like the Epstein files, like this Department of Justice has been covering things up. Like they haven't released all of the files like the law demanded, the law that this president signed. They only recently, like this week, released papers on accusations made against Trump. Well, there's only one reason these hadn't already been made public, which is they are accusations against this president. They've had Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton go and talk to
I forgot what it was called, like
the bodies
sort of
that they go under,
testimony or something.
Yeah, but like they've had them do that, but they're not going to call Trump in to do it. Like it is a clear example of the patriarchy at work. This is a man in the highest position of power not being held accountable, not having to answer to the witnesses, not having to answer to the accusers. It is.
And like in the files, you have this different accusation. I'm sorry, you have the same accusations from different people in different years, people that never have even met each other, but that called in with the same stories. And it's like, this matches, this tracks.
We have locker room talk from this president saying it's okay to grab people by their vaginas. That's not the word he used, obviously, but like we have testimony by the person who's being accused of these horrible things that he does these horrible things. You're a celebrity, they don't even stop you. Like
I remember that, yeah, clearly, as you say. Like he's admittedly saying it publicly on video, on the record.
I mean, he thought it was just to one other dude that laughed at his silly
joke. He didn't realize it was,
But we also have him saying things to like 10-year-olds. Oh, in 10 years I'll date you. Like that's creepy, man. Like it doesn't matter who you are. That's creepy. Like
the Christmas this thing where children called into the White House and the president and the wife would take the calls of the children, and there's one of these calls where there's like a little girl that's calling on the phone, and he's like, "How old are you?" And she's like 9, or I think it was 9, and he's like, "Oh, you sound so beautiful." I'm like, what kind of comment is that? That's fucking creepy.
Yeah. It like, and also the only value that this young girl has is her attraction, right? Like he does that with all the women in like this again is like a thing of like toxic masculinity, that like whenever he's talking about any of the women on his staff, oh, she's beautiful, those lips, that hair, like he makes these comments because he believes it's okay to do so.
He made comments about his 1-year-old daughter's legs. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't. That one is no.
Okay, yeah, he was talking to his wife. I believe is the one that's passed away. Was sitting next to him, and they were being interviewed by a woman, and they asked him something about his children, and then the first thing he starts talking about is about Ivanka's legs, his daughter, and she was like a year old. He's like, she's gonna have her mother's legs, and like blah blah blah. Like, what? Like, this is the
Yeah.
woman you sleep with. You have a child with, clearly you sleep with her. And like, legs, you're not talking about her being a good runner, right? Like, oh, she's gonna be an athlete. No, clearly not.
Yeah. It's wild. And again, I'm not saying Planet Peterson is anything like these people. I'm not saying Planet Peterson is a chauvinist. I'm not saying that he only values women for their looks. What I am saying is that the way he argues in that video is carrying water for the people who are like that. There are monsters among us, and they look like us. They look just like me. I have had, as a white cis dude, I have had some of the most horrendous stuff admitted to me by other white cis dudes, like, who just think I'm going to be on their side. Like, I am known in like the communities that I'm part of as being someone who will call out dog whistles when I see them. I cannot let a dog whistle slide. I will, like, and this happens in my personal friend groups. I was talking to someone earlier today who was like, sometimes I don't want to join a conversation if you're in it, because I know you're going to call me out for any of my shit. And then I'm like, do you want me to stop? And he's like, no, it's why I love you. Like, it's
Right.
it's like it's that. It's like, sometimes it's tiring because I know if I misspeak, you'll catch me, you'll correct me. But like,
Mhm.
I have way too much experience of getting in the back of a taxi or having my hair cut and having some other white dudes just tell me the most horrendous thing. And
Mhm.
socially, what am I supposed to do? Like, what
Yeah.
am I supposed to do socially? Because, like, it's not like I can go to the police and say, oh, someone just told me, like, that they think women are property. Like,
Right,
that's
right.
not, like, it's
You
not a
can't
thing.
do,
It's
yeah.
it's not like I can go and be like, oh, someone told me they don't think trans women should share locker rooms. Like, I can't just go and like what do I do with that information? I have to vehemently disagree with them in the moment and hope they
Yeah.
learn. Like,
Right.
there's like, and what with a cab driver who can kick me out in some random place, a hairdresser who can cut my ear off, like there's certain times where, like, I'm not going to have that discussion. I just have to sit there and be passive and hope that somebody else who is a part of this person's life educates them, that like
Mhm.
somebody else will have that conversation with them. And again, like, this what you do, these conversations you have here, the channels that you're a part of where you have these people calling in, and like the community that like Planet Peterson is part of, like, this is the work that we're supposed to be doing. And seeing such a bad example, I don't know if we touched on it, but the name of that video that he's posted is When You Go So Far
Oh,
Left
yeah,
You
we
Become
didn't.
Sexist.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, he was already set in that mindset of that is sexist.
yep.
I was gonna comment on something real quick. The not all men thing, right? That whenever we bring up the topic of like, hey, toxic masculinity, we're like, we're not all men. One of our mutual friends, Eli, he recently told me this thing that he heard or he's using, and it is, until it is none of us, it is all of us. I probably got that wrong.
Yeah,
Is
no,
that
I like the sound of that. That sounds right. Yeah, until it's none of us, it's all of us. Yeah, like, yeah, until we know who the bad ones are, we just have to assume, like,
it might be the opposite. It's all of us until it's none of us, something like, but you get the
yeah,
idea.
yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
Same
But like,
meaning.
I have another friend who says, it's not all men, but it's always a man. Like, the amount of
Okay.
stories that, like, it's like you can be told a story and it is a twist in the story if it turns out to not be a man, like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
this
like,
horrible thing happened. And yeah, like,
like, I've
and
heard like maybe 2 or 3 of these stories in like my lifetime of where it was a woman. So it's like,
yeah, like, personally, I've never had someone tell me about an assault that they've been the victim of where it was a woman. And like, sure, there is a problem with underreporting of that. There is a problem of it being, again, like, toxic masculinity comes into play here, because toxic masculinity hurts men just as much as it hurts women. And like, men are victims of that, because like, it's hard to come forward and say a woman harmed me. Like, it's hard to come forward and say, me, a man who is expected to be
because of
above
toxic
women.
masculinity.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Like,
toxic masculinity does harm men too.
Yep. Like, we would have more reports of women offenders. Now, it doesn't mean that there would be like a massive spike.
It wouldn't like it wouldn't overload the
and you've got to remember as well that, like, yes, we would have more women being reported, but we'd also have an environment where it was more open, like, to having reports in the first place, which means more men would also be reported. Like,
Right.
there are plenty of people who, again, especially with men, especially with cis straight men, who won't come forward about abuse that they faced at the hands of other men because of the social stigma that it carries.
I think it is actually easier for men to come out about a woman abusing them than it is for them to come out about a man abusing them, because they feel more shame about that, I think.
Yeah, I think it does very much come down to, like, the victims and stuff, I think. But there's also a tendency for men to, like, frame those stories differently. Like, I've had a friend of mine tell me that he slept with his teacher when he was in high school, and he celebrated this story. It was a story he was celebrating. Like, she was a really hot teacher, and I had been bumped up a class, so I, like, was skipping a year, and so I was younger than the other kids. And then, like, we were at a dance, and, like, stuff happened, and it's like, okay, that was child abuse. Like, what happened to you was sexual child violence. Like, that's violence. That's not okay. Like, the fact that society, like, and again, this shit's in movies. It's in movies that, like, the hot teacher and the high school, like the quarterback or whatever, right? Like, these are stories that are told, and it's a thing to aspire to as a young man, that you can get with the hottest woman. And it doesn't matter that she's your teacher, that she's an authority figure. It doesn't matter that, like, these people are taking advantage of their positions. There's this story being told that, like, this is something you should be proud of. And it's complete, like, imagine if a girl student came forward and was bragging about being with the most handsome teacher. I think we'd all be equally like, this is a problem.
Abuse, it's inappropriate, and it's manipulation, coercion, etc.
Like, there are definitely, like, there are plenty of stories of female teachers fired and prosecuted for having sexual relationships with their students.
Oh yeah.
But there are plenty of men who get away with it, and, like, that's the problem with that we still have. And so, like, and also the media likes to sensationalize those stories. Like, it's so commonplace when a man commits these harms that it often goes unreported. Like, it goes so unreported that, like, people who do this kind of thing have to go door to door and tell their neighbors that they're on a list, right? But, like, if a woman does it, it's in the papers. It's like,
like you say, sometimes they don't even realize it. There is another member of our community that recently came out with I wouldn't know, but, like, they recently came out with their story, and they were like, hey, like, when I was younger, I went out with this woman, with this friend, and we had drinks, and then, dropped her off, and then she started, like, kissing me, and I was like, no, let's stop. And then she tried to, further, like, pull out parts and stuff, and he was like, stop, I don't want to do this because you are too drunk, and I'm not going to do that. And she continued and pushed, and eventually, he said after about 15 minutes of that back and forth, he was able to leave. But he's like, at the time, I didn't like think of it as like a sexual assault. But when he told a girlfriend a few years later, she was like, that was sexual assault. And he's like, well, I didn't perceive it as sexual assault, so I don't feel like traumatized or anything like that. But it's like, no, but it is still sexual assault.
Yeah. My like, I luckily haven't had, like, anything like that happen to me. But I have been sexualized by strangers. I was actually had to bring up with someone at one point that, like, it's so nerdy and so dumb and so lame, and it isn't in any way equatable to anything else. But, like, this is just the account that I have. Like, I was making a D&D character, and another player wanted my character and their character to have a sexual relationship in their backstory, and I was vehemently against this. And this is a person who had shown signs of, like, affection towards me elsewhere too, who had commented on my voice, my looks. Like, they had sexualized me outside of my, like, the game we were playing and the characters we were making. and then in character was trying to force an interaction that I was uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And there's like I feel like I should go on like there's like bad D&D stories and stuff. Like I feel like I need to go on like r/terrible like and tell this story, because like I had that same experience where I was like, oh, you know, it was just weird. I didn't want to make my character that way. And it took me months afterwards where I was like, no, that was actually like, that was sexually violating. I actually, like, I didn't recognize it at the time. And it took telling the story a few times to different people to recognize that, like, that was someone sexually violating me. Like, again, not in a
that
way
this
that's
is sort of like
equatable.
a grooming type of way.
Yeah. And like, it is like, they wanted to engage in some kind of sexual activity storytelling, which like
so people are not comfortable with that.
Yeah, it has to be a thing I consent to. And the fact that there was a back and forth where I was like, I don't want that. Oh, what about if we did it this way? I don't want that. What about if we did it that? Like, if someone says no, no is no. Like, that's what consent is. Like, there's like, if two people are engaging and one of them doesn't consent, then those two people stop engaging in that way. Like, that's how that, and like we were saying earlier with toys, like, the ownership matters here, right? Like, my consent can't override someone else's. Like, if the other person owns the mechanics of whatever it is that you're engaging in and they say no, then I can't go, but I really want to. Like, my consent at that point is secondary. And like,
right, because it's more like a desire. It's not like a consent.
Yeah, but like, I'm consenting to this stuff, and like, if there's more than two people involved and two people in consent and one person doesn't, as like, it's really shitty then to just be like, well, you need to leave them. You need to leave this situation that we all consented to. Like, we're all getting drinks, but now you need to leave because the two of us are going to make you uncomfortable if you stay. Like, that's a really shitty situation. Like, it's a really shitty thing. And again, one of these things that happens all the time, and also victimizes, like, it's another thing where men can become victims to toxic masculinity, because it's like, well, what, are you not man enough to stay? Are you scared of what might happen if you stay? Like, yeah, they're just I think, like, I think one of the things as well, like, there was a stay on the statute of limitations in New York so that people could come forward and report rapes that happened like decades ago. And I just don't think we should have statute of limitations on certain crimes. And I think rape and sexual violence is one of them. I think that like, a lot of times people don't recognize that that's what happened. Like in the account with the person in the car, like it is a thing that, like, you have to come to in your own terms, and it's not a thing that other people can tell you, like, oh, that was sexual violence.
I had that happen to me. I don't like share this too much, but like, when I was a teenager, I was like, maybe I want to say 16 or between 16 and 17, and I was like experimenting with my style and stuff, and I think I was wearing a crop top. I was going like right across the parking lot in an apartment complex to the washing room, right? And so I walk out there and get in there, and then this guy who was like way older than me, probably like mid-20s maybe or so, I don't know. So like mid-20s, and he comes and starts talking to me, and about like how I look, and like how my shirt looked and my hair and blah blah blah, and what are you doing and where do you live? And I was like, oh, just right down there. And he's like, oh, I'm visiting my friend, and like he lives right up there in that apartment. Like, you should come hang out with us. And like, I didn't think much of it because I was a dumbass, naive teenager. So I'm like, oh, okay, just like, let me tell my mom, because like she's gonna worry that I just went to the. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll wait for you here at the washing thing. So I go and ask my mom, but I think I probably worded it in a way that she didn't realize what
Yeah,
the
like
implications were. I was like, oh, there's a friend, and like their friend lives here. Can I go hang out? And she's like, why don't you just like hang out there, like outside, you know? And so I go back and told him that I wasn't gonna go to the apartment, and he's like, oh, then let's just take a walk. And we took a walk, and you know, he tried to get handsy and kissing and stuff, and luckily it was like there weren't a lot of places in that specific complex where it was too private. Like from everywhere you could see parking lots and streets and stuff. So like it was just a few minutes, and then he left. And but like imagine if I'd gone to the apartment, and it's like it took me years to realize that wasn't really a consensual interaction, sort of, you know, and that I was a minor, and I probably didn't have the capacity to consent even. So
yeah, like that. Like there is always that factor of like the ability to consent to, and like I've had discussions with people before about like levels of intoxication, and like I've had friends who say, oh, you should never consent regardless of any intoxication. Like if you've had one drink, it's too much to consent. It's like, well, a lot of people require one drink to get over their social anxiety. Like some people require medication to get over their social anxiety. Like a lot of people, like I'm agoraphobic. Like it takes me a lot to just function.
Get out.
Yeah, like I'm medicated. Am I always intoxicated? Like, do I have to wean off of my medication in order to give informed consent? I'd say,
and actually that will probably affect your capacity to consent more, because you wouldn't be you will be sort of incapacitated to what your baseline.
Yeah, there were times where like I was on a heavier dose of my medication and I was very lethargic, and I really do feel like that would have like it would have been difficult for me to say I was giving informed consent at those times, because like I just wanted time to pass. Like I like for where I was at that point, and like the medication that I was on and stuff, it was just like it was sedation. And like I at the time would have told you I was fine. I would have told you I was in full control. I would have told you like and like you get that with drinking, you get that with drugs, and it's there are definitely blurred lines, but like no means no, and we never have to worry about people saying no to consent. Like the blurred lines only happen when people are saying yes. Like the only time we have to question whether someone can give consent is when it's positive consent, because negative consent should be the norm.
No.
If you like no, if you haven't had a discussion about consent, no is the answer. Like, should we be doing stuff? And you had like the answer is no. Like you start
that's where you start.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you can have all of these different discussions moving towards yes. And like, does coffee play a role? Does the food that you've taken? Does your mood? Like all of these different things. And again, why it's so important to listen to victims, because people can tell you, I was groomed. I was groomed and I said yes, but I was groomed. Like
that made me think of another thing that affects men about toxic masculinity is sort of like the same line of thinking of what the teacher thing, right? That if you are with a woman, then that is a good thing always, no matter what, whether you like her or not, then it is a good thing because it's a woman, and you know, men like sex. And so I think a lot of the times when a man starts at no, and then there are a lot of drinks involved, that might change. Not because he actually wants to, but because he's so intoxicated that now it's just all jumbled, and like you say, the capacity to consent is just has completely gone away. I've had that. Yeah.
There's
my phone was ringing. Sorry
about that. There's a comedy song, and it's about how the the person that this there's a person drinking, and with every drink the person gets prettier, and like there's that too. Like there's the fact that like you can start overlooking things that you previously wouldn't have, based on like intoxication levels or things other people have told you. Like the amount of like I was saying before about like why would you think men in any given space are safe? Like the stories of the stories of my wife in the background probably being attacked by a cat. The stories of like it's why I'm so hesitant to be positive about other men too. Like it's hard for me, like the amount of times I've had friends who are interested in a friend of mine ask if that person is safe, and the only real answer I can give is I've never had a sexual encounter with them, so I can't answer that for you. Like I do not know. Like they seem great, and it's a thing you said earlier about like vetting people to have these discussions. Like there's only so much that you can ever truly know unless you've like gone to certain levels, and even then like people are different with some people than others. Like I have friends who are bi, and they tell me about how like they're completely different in whether they're engaging with a man or a woman. Like they have completely different moods, they have completely different preferences, like they have completely different behaviors based on who it is that they're with. And you don't have to be bi for that to be true. You know, like it's so many different factors where like, and again, all of these things can play into like consent and can play into and can be factored on by things like toxic masculinity, like the idea that you should be doing certain things because society has pushed you in that direction.
Because otherwise you're not man enough. Totally agree. Do we have anything else we want to cover today?
I think I'm really glad with how we covered the video. You know this, and we haven't said it before, but like I have left platforms because of them giving space for certain people, and I know that there are other people who've left other communities based on the platform and people they disagree with. And like I do think it's very important to like to have this, to watch the video yourself, to look at the evidence, to make your own opinions. And it's great to have like to be able to bounce these things off of someone like you, someone who like I have had discussions with. I know where we align. I know parts of where maybe we don't align, and like that's great. Like I think every friend circle, like if the people you engage with are always in agreement with you, then you need to widen your sphere of like communication. Like you need people who will
true.
Like the thing I said earlier about my friends who are like, thank you for calling me out on like the dog whistle. I missed it. I didn't know I was doing that. Like there's lots of I hope someone close to Planet Peterson, who knows Planet Peterson, maybe who sees this, probably not, but hopefully,
tiny channel.
I'm also nobody, so like I'm just your friend. But like I hope someone close to him does have a conversation and to get through to him. I don't think he's beyond this discussion.
Salvation.
Like I said, like there's nothing where it's like these massive red flags where I'm like, I would advise all the women in my life to have no communication with this person. Like it's not that, but I would ask them to watch these videos and make their own decisions. Like this is very much like that, and it's nice in a world of social media that I try to stay off of. I do think it's important that like we make space for people to learn and change, but also we call out shit when we see it. So I think that's what we did today.
Maybe somebody will send it to him, and if they do, I hope he takes it seriously and be like, hey, you know what, maybe that was a little problematic or something. Because like we've said, being an atheist doesn't mean that we're all going to agree on every single topic ever, and we can call out harmful ideas and harmful things from both our friends and from people that we don't know personally in the community. And it doesn't mean that we're like, slinging shit or like hating on somebody. It's just like, hey, we want to improve this community. We can do a lot better than that. So let's try that.
Yeah. I like that. Let's just keep trying.
Yeah. Like I will say, okay, so this is my Rage and Love show, but everybody knows I host it on Ways to Human. And I will say at the end of shows, I say, life is not about being perfect. It's about finding better ways to human. Like you don't have to start at perfection. You don't.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. And you will never end at perfection, by the way.
Yeah. No one's perfect. Like anyone who tells you is a liar.
Yeah. They might be trying to get something out of you, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so we've raged enough today. So I will love to have you back. And whenever if you ever decide to do a channel, we'll have you back and have you advertise that. You don't have any right now. So like, where can people find you? Right here, right now.
Right here in the comments, in shows that you were on other channels.
Skeptic Haven, right?
I can plug Skeptic Haven. I call stream sometimes if you want to hear my voice again. I don't know why you would. Feel free to call in. I will listen to you for about 2 minutes and then let you talk to people more educated on these matters, more able to have these discussions than I am.
I mean, who knows? Maybe one day we'll have you on one of these call-in shows whenever you're ready. Maybe not. But...
I have terrible social anxiety.
Okay. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah. So hey, you could be here now. I used to be agoraphobic, so there's that.
Yeah. I'm getting better.
Yeah, and I am actually going to be speaking at NanoCon.
Hell yeah!
In a few months, so like you can get over it. You can, but it's taking freaking years. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll take my time.
Yeah, we'll see you in a few years.
I'll see you next time.
Next time, whenever that it may be. All right. Thank you everybody for watching, and thank you, Cull the Atheist, for being here today. We'll see you guys next time.
No gay, no fascist USA. No Trump, no gay, no fascist USA. Do you wanna be an American idiot? One nation controlled by the media. Information ain't Travis says. Fuck you, Donald Trump!